Okay, so today we are going to look at a इसको बंद करो पहले code I have already added because I get tired after the class, so didn't want to postpone that. Baki, today we are going to solve a very beautiful question. Okay, to be honest, I saw it today only. I didn't solve it before this, and it's मतलब next level. मतलब if you see this question, there is no way that you will understand that binary search is going to be used here, right? So that's the kind of question it is, and if I am able to explain it to you, matlab, it's a test for me today. If I am able to explain it to you, I'll be very happy. Otherwise, there is no sense of me teaching. Will the mock test involve questions based on finding answers by binary search in search space? Mock can include anything, but कौन सा कोड अनमोल मैं समझ नहीं पा रहा. You can raise hand quickly because हाँ हाँ भाई क्या.
सर वो जो कल स्क्वायर रूट वाला करवाया था ना आपने बाइनरी सर्च के थ्रू,
हाँ हाँ हाँ
उसमें
हाँ
सर आपने ना एक टेस्ट केस नहीं करा था इफ n इज इक्वल टू 0, तो उसमें 0 रिटर्न करना था. तो वो ना लीड कोड पे क्या है वो फेल हो रहा था आपका कोड. ये सिर्फ एक लाइन करने से ना वो टेस्ट केस पास हो रहे थे सारे.
लीड कोड पे फेल होगा बट ये देखो मैं क्यों नहीं किया था बता देता हूँ. बाइनरी सर्च टू स्क्वायर रूट ऑफ अ नंबर. आई विल जस्टिफाई माई सेल्फ है ना पूरा. देखो नंबर इज गोइंग टू बी फ्रॉम 1 to 10 to the power 7 है ना. तो लीड कोड में if you are solving it, just add one line. If not here, because let me just add it at the correct place only, and we have taken if n is less than 2, just just print ठीक है. So for the case when n is equal to 0 or 1, you can tackle it like this and return. ठीक है. But in this case, in our portal's case, it's not required. That's why I did not include it. So my code never fails. Okay. Anyways, let's remove this. ठीक है अनमोल, got it. And today I'll not be able to take a lot of questions because this question I have to cover anyways by hook or by crook. ठीक है. So we'll not take a lot of questions in between the class today because it hinders the flow. I have been taking questions without any particular, you can say, constraint. I even stayed back after the class yesterday for half an hour to address your queries, but that's not going to be possible today because we have to finish binary search 1, and we have to finish at least this question that I have brought. ये allocate minimum number of pages वाला जो question है on your portal, it's here, right? So this question we have to complete. So if you have any doubts from previous days or anything, please hold it for now. Okay, because we'll be starting it like starting with this question, right? And let's get started because we have 225 people, which is a good strength to start, right? Okay, so I'm not going to take any questions in the beginning of class today. We are just going to get started with this question. Okay, don't look at the code. I was just solving it, so it's that code. I'll just remove it before we begin again. This is a very good question. Just remove any query that you have from your mind. Like sit with a fresh mind and let's focus on this question only. Let's focus on this question. If we are able to complete this, no matter whether it takes 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, obviously it will not take 5 hours. This question we are going to complete. Uske baad, these questions, if we will do, we'll do. If we don't do, it's fine. From my side, completing this question is the priority today, and it's not that I'm going to take unnecessarily high amount of doubts because of that. एक बार मुझे satisfaction हो गया कि मैंने समझा दिया, तो I'll close it, है ना? So this is a very good question, okay, and it's a non-intuitive question. That means if you see this question, not in 1,000 years will you be able to understand that it's going to employ binary search. Okay, so that's what this makes this question very special. and it has come in interviews and coding tests of very big companies. Okay, we talk about 10 to 12 to 15 LPA. This comes in the coding round of companies which offer 35, 40 LPA. This is the question. Okay, I mean the best question of binary search. Okay, and even I didn't know it before today. So thank you, Akajab. Okay, so now given an array of integers of size n and integer b. So two things are given, an array is given to you and an integer b is given. Fine. College library has n, I think this is a typing mistake. This is actually books. College library has n books. Okay. And the ith book has ai number of pages. So basically this array that has been given to you, it's actually telling you about the number of pages present in a particular book. So at the 0th index, the number, if the number is let's say 20, that means the 0th book has 20 pages inside it. Okay. Now you have to allocate books to b number of students, that this number b is also given to you, so that maximum number of pages allotted to a student is minimum. Now this line is a little bit confusing, so let me just explain it to you. Okay, let me just start explaining from this part. Okay, otherwise if we move further it will become more and more trickier for us to understand. Anyways, so let's say this is your array. Okay, I'm taking a very you can say basic example, very easy numbers, so that you know whatever variables I'm going to use later, it's going to actually give a good amount of calculation there. That's why I've deliberately taken this particular case. And let's say b is equal to 2. B is the number of students. Okay, so now what the question is asking you to do is to allocate these books, these 4 books, to these 2 students, such that, so what will happen is when you will allocate these books to these 2 students, each student will have particular number of pages to read. Okay, for example, if you allocate these 2 books to student A and these 2 books to the other student, so it will have 30, the other student will have 70. So basically each student will have some number of pages to read. What the question is asking you to do is, it's asking you to minimize the maximum number of pages that a student has to read. That means when you will do this kind of allocation, there will be some student who will have the maximum number of pages to read. Okay, that student will have the maximum number of pages to read. What does that mean now? That means the student which has the maximum number of pages to read, this particular number should be minimized. Okay, so I'm going to repeat again. Whatever allocation you do, there will be one student always that will have the maximum number of pages to do, and this number you want to minimize, because in a way you can say you want to minimize the load on the students. So you want to make a distribution such that the maximum number of pages that any student is reading is minimized. Okay, so for example, and let me read the next line now to make it more clear. A book will be allocated to exactly one student. So basically one book can be allocated to one student only. Okay, you can't say that this is one book, half of it will be read by Bhavya and half of it will be read by Manoj. That is something you are not allowed to do. Each student has to be allocated at least one book. Okay, each student has to be allocated at least one book. So basically you can't move forward with this question if you have, let's say, 2 books and 5 students, right? I'm just giving a rough example, because 2 books, 5 students, so there will be 3 students at least who will be left without a book. So that's also not allowed. Each student has to be allocated at least one book. Now allotment should be in contiguous order. For example, this let's read this and then I will explain what this particular statement means, right? A student cannot be allocated one book and book 1 and book 3, skipping book 2. So what you have to do is, once you are deciding the books for a particular student, you will have to follow that particular order whichever is given in the array, right? So for example, if you are giving a student the book 10 and 20, that is fine, but what you can't do is, so if this is the number of pages, right, in the respective books, you can't say that student 1 will read 10 and 30 and student 2 will read 20 and 40. So this will go to one student and this will go to one student. This is something you cannot do. Why? Because it's skipping a book in between, right? You gave 10 to a particular, you give this book to a particular student and you give this book to a particular another student. That's not possible because you are skipping this particular book in this allocation. Okay, so let me summarize whatever we have read so far. Okay, so first thing that is given to you is an array that is telling you the pages in books. Okay, number of pages. Second thing that is given to you is number of students. Third thing that is given to you is a constraint that says each student should have at least one book. And the fourth constraint, which is also very important, you will realize why. Fourth constraint is that you will have to you will have to make it continuous, basically. Continuous. I don't know what language I went to after writing in continuous. What does this mean? So basically, if you are allocating a book to a particular student, so if you want to allocate this book to a particular student, it's fine. But you cannot skip a particular book in between and say that after this book one, I want to allocate this particular book to that student. Right? Two students are there, right, in our example. So you can't say that I will allocate this book and this book. You can either allocate like this. Okay, you can either say that, okay, I'm giving this book to a particular student and this book to a particular student, right? So this is one of the allocations that you can do. Second allocation is you can give these two books to one student and these two books to another student. Third allocation is you can give these three books to one student and this book to the last student. So this is the kind of allocation that you will do. I'm sure some of you would be having doubt in this question itself कि question क्या बोल रहा है. So let me explain it once again and then I will ask you if the question is clear. क्या करना है, कैसे करना है will not be clear at all, like just by seeing the question. So first question that I will ask you after explaining once again is the question clear to you? Okay, so I'm not asking it now. I'm going to explain it once again, no matter whether you have understood it or not. Okay, so listen carefully. What have we been given? What are we given with? We are given an array that contains the number of pages each book has. Okay, so if, for example, in this example, we have 4 books. So 10, 20, 30, 40 is actually the number of pages the particular books have. Book 1 has 10 pages, book 2 has 20 pages, book 3 has 30 pages, book 4 has 40 pages. That's the kind of allocation that we see here. B is equal to 2. What does it mean? There are 2 students for which you have to do this particular allocation. So there are 2 students for which you want to do this calculation, right? And now what you will do is the third constraint that we have, this is very easy. Each student should have at least one book. So all this particular constraint says is only one point it is saying. If number of books is less than B, that is the number of students, that you will return -1 or -1 or whatever the question is asking us to return. Basically, this is an invalid case. In this case, you cannot do allocation at all, right? So you will just say return -1 because in this case, I can't allocate the books considering all the conditions. Okay, because if the number of books itself is lesser than the number of students and you cannot divide the books between students, so basically you can't say that one book will be shared by 3 students. That's not possible. So in this case, what will happen is 3 students will be left without a book. Okay, so like I just said 3 randomly. So if number of books is 2 and the number of student is 5, so if you distribute these 2 books to 2 different students, still 3 students at least will be left without any book. So in this case, you will just return -1 because this constraint will not be fulfilled, right? Now what's the fourth constraint? If you have an array like this 10, 20, 30, 40, in this case, if you want to do allocation between, let's say, 2 students, how you can do it is you can either make a partition like this saying this will go to one student and this will go to one student, or you can make a partition like this, or you can make a partition like this, right, saying that these 3 books to one student and this one book to another student, right? This is the kind of case you have. So let me explain to you one by one what we have in this particular example. If you do a partition like this, 2 students are there. Okay, I'm taking a very basic case in the beginning just to explain the theory to you. So what will we do? If we give this book to a particular student, automatically these 3 books will go to the other student. So what's the distribution we have? 10 comma, what is the sum? 20, 30, 40, 40, 30, 70, 20, 90. So one student will have 10 pages to read, another student will have 90 pages to read. So your answer, or you can say the value that you want to consider from here is 90, because it's the maximum value that any particular student has to read in our example, right? So this is what you are doing here. Now if you make a partition like this, what will happen? One student will read these two books and the other student will be left with these two books, right? So in this case, what is the maximum number of pages? 70, right? So 70 pages are to be read by a particular student. Okay, that's the condition that you arrive at. 70 is the maximum number of pages that are to be read by a particular student, and this is the number we are looking to minimize. Okay, in one case we got it as 90, in one case we got it as 70. So based on different partitions that we are doing, we are getting different answers, and we want to select the best out of those partitions, right? In this case, what will happen if you do a partition like this? What will you do? 10, 20, 30. One student will read 60 number of pages, other student will read 40 number of pages, so the maximum is 60. So basically, if you do a division like this, the maximum number of pages that a student has to read has now been minimized. Do you see? Because see, the good point about continuous allocation is you can be sure that for two students these are the only possible cases, right? Because you can't say ki I will make a partition like this where I will give 10 and 40 to one student, 20 and 30 to another student, right? That will make our question difficult also. Okay, so now what you have to do is, in these three cases, you will see that this particular partition is giving us the best answer. This partition, these three books for one student, this book for another student. So 60-40 division is being done, and the maximum number of pages that is getting as a load on one student is 60, which is minimum out of these three cases. So what was your problem statement again? You have to allocate this so that maximum number of pages allotted to a student gets minimized or is minimum. Okay, is this question clear? I will have to create a poll. Till then you can gather your thoughts, है ना? Is the question okay? कैसे करना है ये बिल्कुल मत सोचो अभी. किसने मुझसे पूछा तो मार खाएगा. मार खाएगा मतलब डांट ही खा सकते हैं ऐसे डिस्टेंस में तो, है ना? Only the question, right? So let me launch the poll. You can answer, and till then I can take this one person's doubt. Yeah, Mehran, go ahead.
हेलो सर,
हाँ भाई.
एक क्वेश्चन में आंसर क्या हमारे से पूछ रहे हैं? जो मिनिमम बुक रीड करना है क्या? मिनिमम पेजेस इक्वल से रहना है क्या?
See, are you getting how we are dividing the books between two students?
Yes, I get this.
These are the three possible ways.
Yes.
So what is the maximum in these three? I mean, what is the maximum in all these cases? In this case, 90 is maximum. In this case, 70 is maximum. In this case, 60 is maximum, right?
Yes.
So you have created three ways in which the maximum number of pages that a student has to read are 90, 70, and 60.
Its maximum is 90. Then
that's fine. In this case, maximum is 90. You are able to understand this?
Yes.
In this case, 70. In this case, 60.
60, yes.
So this is what it is. This thing, maximum number of pages that a student has to read, right? That is 90, 70, and 60 based on three different partitions.
Okay.
Right. Now you want to minimize this number. That is which particular partition will you consider?
Third partition.
This one.
Part.
Okay.
Okay.
So is it clear to you now?
Yes, it's clear.
है ना? Cool then. Yeah, Naushad. Okay, this is the last doubt I can take because I told you, right? Yeah, Naushad, go ahead.
सर इसमें स्वैप वगैरह नहीं कर सकते क्या? स्वैप या शॉर्ट करते ऐसा कुछ नहीं क्या?
स्वैप इसलिए नहीं कर सकते because of this constraint, continuous. If you do a swap or any kind of sorting or anything, in that case, this particular logic is violated. Okay, you have to make continuous violation.
Otherwise I am thinking कि 20 30 एक साइड कर देते और 10 को स्वाइप करके 30 के जगह पे ले आते, दोनों 50-50 हो जाता.
No, not allowed. Continuous. Okay, whatever order is given, you have to follow that only.
Okay.
Okay, so
thank you.
In the order of books, we cannot make any change. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Let me just read the poll. It's 78-22 distribution. It's still not even 80 or 85. Okay, what should I do? Let's take one more doubt. Yeah, Harish. And then I will explain it once again from my end only, right? Yeah, Harish, go ahead. Okay, yeah, SK, go ahead.
Hello, sir. I'm audible.
हाँ,
Sir, 10, 20, 30, 40. Given an array. सर हमें पार्टीशंस करने हैं इसके कंटिन्यूसली. पहले हमने ले लिया 10, मतलब फर्स्ट स्टूडेंट को 10 दे दिए और सेकंड स्टूडेंट को 20 प्लस 30 प्लस 40. सेकंड स्टूडेंट को 10 और 30 अरेंज दे दिया.
10 और
उसके बाद
20.
30 और 40 एक जगह लगे. यस सर.
हाँ.
प्लस करा
And
के
in third case,
फिर इन
10,
दोनों को
20,
अलग से
30
प्लस.
and 40.
ओनली 2 स्टूडेंट्स है ना, टू पार्टीशन करने हैं सर.
हाँ.
और फिर लास्ट पार्ट यही, मतलब यही 3 केसेस बन सकते हैं इसमें, और कोई केस तो बनेगा नहीं सर.
Exactly.
कंटिन्यूसली.
Continuous because of that constraint. Yes.
हाँ सर. और तो सर हमें आउटपुट में ये 90, 70 और 60 आ गया है, मतलब अभी तक के.
Okay.
तो अब हमें क्या करना है इनमें से 90, 70, 60 में से आगे क्या
90,
करना है?
70 and 60 are in each partition. These are the maximum number of pages that are getting allocated to any student, है ना? You want to minimize this. That means that you will take this as your final answer. Okay.
60. तो सर
Because-
मतलब जो इनमें से हम, हाँ सर.
नहीं, बोलो.
तो सर पहले तो हम मैक्सिमम फाइंड करेंगे कि मैक्सिमम पेजेस किसने रीड किए हैं.
हम करेंगे क्या, उसको छोड़ो. अभी क्या कर रहे हैं उस पे अपन ने ये कर लिया कि बेस्ड ऑन द पार्टीशन वी आर काइंड ऑफ ट्राइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड what is the maximum number of pages that a person has to read in one particular partition, right?
Yes sir.
So it is 90 in this case,
Maximum-
70 in this case, 60 in this case. Now
सर हम
this
हाँ, हम आउटपुट 60 ही क्यों ले रहे हैं सर? आउटपुट मिनिमम क्यों ले रहे हैं?
question में
क्या
वही
कहा है
चाहिए.
इसने क्वेश्चन?
So you are calculating this in each partition. You are calculating maximum number of pages allotted to a particular student. Okay.
अच्छा.
You have to choose the allocation so that maximum
yeah.
number of pages allotted to a student is minimum. So which allocation will
Okay
you
sir.
choose?
Okay.
This one.
मिनिमम फाइंड करना.
है ना?
Okay sir. Understand.
Now let me explain the question once again. And again, I am trying to explain the question to you. It is not at all the approach we are going to follow. The approach that we are going to follow, throw it out of the window. That's not in question as of now. Just focus on understanding the question, right? So you are given an array, right? You are given an array.
Sir,
N is the
सर एक
number of.
डिजिट और ऐड करना है इसमें.
मैं नहीं कर
50
रहा.
50 ऐड.
नहीं, तुम्हें क्वेश्चन समझ गया ना?
यस सर.
हाँ, तो मैं नहीं कर रहा
सर
अभी.
50 ऐड करेंगे तो हमारे केसेस एक्स्ट्रा हो जाएंगे ना.
एक ही केस एक्स्ट्रा ऐड होगा, वो करके देख लो, है ना? एक एंड वाला पार्टीशन एक और आ जाएगा, राइट? डू इट योरसेल्फ. ओके, कूल. देन आई एम एक्सप्लेनिंग दिस एग्जांपल वंस अगेन. ओके, फॉर पीपल टू हुम क्वेश्चन इज नॉट क्लियर. जिनको क्वेश्चन क्लियर है 2 मिनट के लिए मौन व्रत धारण करो, सो जाओ. ओके, नाउ फॉर पीपल हु आर स्टिल नॉट क्लियर विद द क्वेश्चन, आई एम एक्सप्लेनिंग वंस अगेन. We are given with an array that is containing the number of pages in n books. So basically in 4 books we are talking about. So there are 4 books which have 10, 20, 30 and 40 pages respectively. First thing. Second thing that's given to us is, for some reason the variable name is b, so I'm just writing b again and again, but b is the number of students. So these 4 books you have to allocate to these 2 students. Second thing. Third constraint is, while you are doing so, each student should get at least 1 book. Each student should get at least 1 book. That is the third constraint. And the fourth constraint is, while you are allocating these books, you will have to make a continuous allocation. Continuous allocation. Which means, if you are allocating this book, and you don't want to allocate this one, then that means these 3 books continuously will be given to the next student, right? So your first allocation will look like this. Let me just write it down again. Okay, so 10. So if you are allocating this book to one student, so that means 10 will be there for the one student, and 20 plus 30 plus 40, 90 pages will be there for the other student to read. Okay, this is the allocation you can do. Second valid allocation is this one. If you give 10 and 20, that is 30 pages to one student, and 30 plus 40, 70 pages to the other student. And the third allocation is, or you can say the third partition will give us the result 10, 20, 30 to the one student and 40 to another student. Okay, so these are the three possibilities that we have for dividing. Because of continuous allocation, you can't do cases like you gave this book and this book to one student, so 10 plus 30 to one student, and then you gave this book and this book to another student, 20 plus 40 is equal to 60, right? So you cannot do allocations like this because it is discontinuous. You chose 10, you left 20, and you went ahead with 30. This is not allowed. Okay, so the three possible allocations or the three possible partitions that you can make are these. Now in these three cases, what is the maximum number of pages that one student has to read? There are only two students, so the maximum is, pretty evident here. 90 is the maximum number of pages that one student has to read, right? So in this case, we are getting our answer as, or you can say our case as 90. In this case, the second student will have to read 70 pages. In this case, 60 is the maximum number of pages that one particular student will have to read. Okay, so now these are the three possible partitions. These are the three possible maximum number of pages that one student will have to read. So which partition is your answer? This one is your answer according to the question, because it asks you have to minimize the maximum number of pages allotted to one student, right? So whatever is the number of pages allotted, you will take the maximum of that number, and this number you have to minimize. So in a way, you can say that even the person who has been allotted the maximum number of pages to read also does not have much load on him, right? Are you getting this intuition? This will happen if we allocate like this, because we are allocating in a particular way, and even the maximum number of pages that one particular student has to read is also minimized. So it's, you can say the most fair distribution. Okay, is the question clear to you? I'm launching the poll again, right? Only the question. How will we solve it? I don't know. But is the question clear to you? Till then, I can take one doubt. Yeah, Harish, go ahead. हाँ भाई. Okay. Yeah, Kamar.
हेलो सर.
हाँ.
सर जैसे सर आपने एरे लिया 10, 20, 30, 40, तो इसमें सर हमको दो स्टूडेंट है, स्टूडेंट ए, स्टूडेंट बी. तो उसमें हमको नंबर ऑफ पेजेस पढ़ने हैं सर. जैसे आपने पहले लिया 10 और 90, फिर सेकंड में लिया 30 और 70 कंटिन्यूस है, 60 और 40, फिर आपने इसका मैक्सिमम निकाल लिया 90, 70, 60.
सही है बिल्कुल.
yes.
Yes.
आप सर 60 फाइनल कैसे कर रहे हैं सर, ये समझ नहीं आ रहा.
यहाँ तक आपको समझा 90, 70, 60 तक?
जी सर. हाँ, अब 90, 70, 60 में आप आंसर इस फाइनल जो कर रहे हैं 60, ये कैसे हो रहा है? और दूसरी चीज ये है कि सर दूसरी चीज सर इतना ट्रिकी क्वेश्चन है सर, इंटरव्यूज में इस टाइप के क्वेश्चन है तो सर हमको कैसे करना होगा सर?
There is only one way of solving this question, है ना? If you have read it before. So in general, these kind of questions are, not taken in interviews. In general, if it comes in the interview, you will have to, you will have to confess कि मैंने ऐसा कुछ किया हुआ है पहले, right? Otherwise, there is a brute force approach also that I will tell you, but that is ridiculous, very, very expensive in terms of time. Okay, so the only way to have solved this question, everyone will know, even the interviewer, is that you have solved this question before. Otherwise, किसी को पूरी दुनिया में नहीं समझ में आएगा कि इसमें बाइनरी सर्च लगाना है. Okay, so that's my answer. And generally, these kind of questions come in written tests only, because it's something that shows the skill that this question tests is, after this is explained to you, are you able to understand or not? So today our agenda is that only. Don't worry about how we are going to think about these kind of questions. In these kind of questions, only worry about whether you are able to understand after I have explained or not, है ना? So that is to answer your second question. And to answer your first question, how we are taking 60 as the answer. So see, 90, according to this partition, 90 is the maximum number of pages that one student has to read, right? 70 is the maximum number of pages in this case mein. 60 is the maximum number of pages in this case. So out of the 3 possible cases, we now know the maximum number of pages that a student will have to read, जो एक student को read करने पड़ेंगे if we make this kind of allocation. ठीक है?
Yes, sir.
These are the 3 possible allocations. These are the maximum number of pages that one student will have to read. This number only we want to minimize. That's the question, right? That what kind of allocation can you do so that even the maximum number of pages that will fall on one particular student is minimized. So in this particular,
सर मैक्सिमम में जो मिनिमम है वो हमको निकालना है ना. Okay.
In a particular allocation, whatever is the maximum number of pages falling on a particular student, है ना? So you will take the maximum out of all the pages that are allocated to the students. So this maximum that you have taken, this should be minimized. So you will choose an allocation in which you are getting the minimum possible number, setting as the getting set as the maximum number of pages that one student will have to read. Okay. So in this case 60 is going to become our answer. Okay. So now majority of you are clear with the question, so I can move on. So now let's try and understand what is the maximum number of pages that are possible for a student to read. Okay, hypothetical case we will take just to set ranges, just to set bounds. And what is the minimum number of pages that a student will have to read? Okay, so just for starting the thought, just for getting our brains to work, I'm telling you that the minimum number of pages a student will have to read is 0 for the time being. What is the maximum number of pages that a student will have to read? Matlab, like theoretically, what would be the maximum number of pages? So the maximum number of pages theoretically would be if we give all the books to one student. Theoretically, that is the maximum number of pages that a student will have to read, right? Right. So if we give all the books to one particular student, it's going to be some. Right. So this is the maximum number of pages that might fall on a particular student. Okay. So we are just calculating the theoretical possibility that this number that we want to calculate, maximum number of pages that are falling on a particular student. This will range from, for example, 0 to the sum of all books. In the case that we give all the books to one student only. Okay. This is the theoretical maximum. Okay. In reality, this will not be the maximum, because now you will come and say that every student should get one book. What about that and all? This is the theoretical maximum. Okay. So don't worry about it. When I will explain the whole approach, you will understand that this is not going to impact us. But just to get an upper bound, this is the upper bound. इससे ज़्यादा तो किसी हालत में नहीं हो पाएगा. It is not at all possible to allocate more than these number of pages, because we don't have that many books, no? So this is the maximum number of pages that can fall on any particular student. And the minimum number I have, as of now, I have written as 0, but it's actually going to be because of the constraint that each student should get at least one book. Each student should get at least one book. So if you give one book to each student, theoretically, what is the minimum maximum possible? What is the minimum number of pages that are possible? What is, let me rephrase the thing. What is the minimum value that will come as the maximum number of pages that the student has to read? Matlab, let me explain it with an example. That way it will be more clear. So you have 5 books. You allocate it to 5 people. Just an example, okay? Another example. So what is the maximum number of pages that one person will have to read? Whatever is the maximum in our array, right? The book with the maximum number of pages, right? So basically, because of the fact that each book will have to be allocated to at least one student, or you can say that, because every person is going to get one book, and each book will definitely be allocated. You cannot leave out books. So at least this is going to qualify as the maximum, at least. So basically, can I say that it will start from maximum of whatever, whatever maximum of array, whatever number of pages we have in the array, whatever is the maximum of that particular thing, that is going to be the minimum maximum, right? Understand this term minimum maximum. So minimum maximum is the value that is the minimum possible value for the maximum number of pages that one student will have to read. I'm repeating it again. Maximum number of pages that one student will have to read. इसकी theoretically minimum value क्या होगी? So even if you do the best allocation, 5 people, 5 books, and you give out one book to each student, that you will have to do, because you cannot leave out any student and you cannot leave out any book also. So in this example, out of these 5 people, one person will definitely get the book, obviously will get the book which has the maximum number of pages, right? So that particular number of pages is going to account as the theoretical minimum in our case. क्या ये चीज आपको समझी? Let me just launch the poll again. Did you get this point? So it will be in our case, in our case when we will start calculating, I am saying we will start from 40. Okay, we will start from 40 because no matter what allocation you are doing, at least some student is going to get this book. No, some student is going to get this book, and assuming all the other students are getting a lesser sum than this particular 40, at least ये तो maximum qualify करेगा ही ना. At least this is the minimum value. It can't go below this particular one, right? So maximum of our array, that is in this case it's 40, right? Let me read the poll results. Okay, it's not clear. I expected it, so don't worry. Let me take a few, no, not a few. I'll quantify it. I will take 2 doubts only, no matter what, and then I will explain again. Yeah, Naushad, go ahead.
हाय सर. सर मैं ड्राई रन कर रहा था सर. एक एरे है 100, 20,000, 200, 5,000 और 300.
ठीक है, कुछ भी है. What is your
ठीक है सर.
doubt?
तो मेरा डाउट था सर कि कोई हम बुक छोड़ सकते हैं क्या?
नो,
कोई बुक नहीं छोड़ सकते ना सर?
No.
तो मिनिमम वाला सर, अगर एक बंदे को हम एक बुक दे रहे हैं तो वो 100 जाएगा, और बाकी सबको जो दे रहे हैं सर, अगर हम मिनिमम 2 भी कैलकुलेट कर रहे हैं तो एक का सर 20,000 जा रहा है और एक का सर जा रहा है मतलब 5,300.
So 20,000 is the answer. There is a book that has 20,000 pages, no?
Yes, 20,000.
So at least 20,000 is going to be the answer, because this book you are going to give to some student, no?
हाँ, देना ही है.
देना ही है.
देना है.
And after all, what are you calculating? You are calculating the maximum number of pages that a student has to read.
और सर मुझे 3 बंदों को देना है सर. एक तो एरे सर, एक
3
बार
बंदों को मत दो. You will get confused. Don't give it to three people. Talk about 2 people only, or any number of people. But the fact, at least one person is going to get this book, no? 20,000 वाली.
तो यहाँ पे जो आंसर होगा सर अपना 20,000 होगा. मान लीजिए सर कोई भी अपना कैलकुलेशन रहता है 10, 20, 30 और यहाँ पे 4,000 रहता है सर 40 के जगह पे. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे जो आंसर होता, अगर हम सबको जोड़ भी दें तो वो जो सिंगल बुक है वो 4,000 आ रहा है, तो आंसर जो रिटर्न होगा वो 4,000 होगा.
ये इतना बोल के ना तुमने, you are confusing the flow. Don't go there. Just tell me, understand part by part. Okay, don't go ahead of the flow, otherwise you will get lost. Don't go, obviously minimum just follow what I am saying, but don't go beyond this.
Okay,
don't take examples with 5 students, 60 students, 60,000 pages.
I am only talking about 2 people. अगर यहाँ पे कोई बुक रहता सर जिसमें प्रेजेंट रहते 400 pages,
400 pages
40 के जगह पे 400
so
pages.
all I am trying to convey is, at this point all you need to understand is, tell me if you agree, in whatever allocation you do, at least one person will get 400 pages.
Yes.
Whatever you do. So what is the, and let's say that is the maximum, right? That is the maximum. So it is the minimum maximum. Do you understand that? Because the other possibility is what? The person is getting 400 book along with some other book also.
Yes,
right? The minimum possibility is that the person is getting only one book that has 400 pages. Are you getting this?
Yes sir. मतलब मिनिमम एक बुक देना ही है और उसमें भी हमें मिनिमम ढूंढना है.
So minimum one book you have to give out, and then whatever the allocation is at the end, So you will have some distribution. Student 1 got these pages, student 2 got these many pages, student 3 got these many pages, and so on. You will take the maximum out of it, right? At least 400 is going to be the maximum, because ये book किसी को तो जाएगी. This book will go at least to some person, no?
हाँ, 400 में हम 30 करते हैं तो वो अल्टरनेट बड़ा ही हो जाएगा.
Exactly. So when you are giving out the book with the highest number of pages, that's the best case to start our question, because that's the lowest value of maximum that you can get, right? Because in all the other cases, you are going to give that person the 400 book plus some other only. So the point from where our question starts is going to be the maximum number of pages in this particular array.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
बढ़िया है ना? So yes. Okay, let me relaunch the poll, see if it has any effect. This discussion with Naushad, is it better now? And in this case, for the case of poll, people who have replied earlier will also have to reply again, because if only people with doubt reply again, then the result is going to skew in the favor of no people. You're getting this, right? So please, like as many times I am launching the poll, please make sure that you are answering this. And please, for this particular lecture, I don't care what you do in other lectures that I take. The class starts with 285 people and it drops to roughly 200 towards the end of it. But for this one class, I am requesting you, do not drop. Even if you don't understand one word that I am going to say, give this 1.5 hour, remaining 1.5 hour to me, and see the effect. If it benefits you, well and good. If it does not benefit you, sorry, but you will only have lost 1.5 hour of your life. Okay, so today, do not drop at all. Okay, even if you don't understand a word of what I am saying, do not drop. Okay, only for this one class. Baki, okay, so this condition is now clearer to other people also, right? To some more people. So let's go ahead with what I am trying to explain here. And once I explain the next part of this particular question, or the next part of this approach that we are going to take, it's going to become clearer for you guys, even better. Okay, so if that part is done, we are done with the question. So the next part that I am going to explain to you guys, please listen to it very carefully. So now I understand. The only doubt that you have is कि भाई starting point maximum of the array कैसे हो रहा है, right? You have that doubt. For a second, those 20% people who have that doubt, for a second, assume that this is true. Okay, assume that the minimum possibility of our answer is maximum number of pages of that array. Okay, for a second, assume that. Okay, and then let's start our discussion further, because I know this you are clear with, this some of you have a doubt with, 22% people. But let's move on to the next point that I want to explain. If that gets clear, question is solved, or you can say almost 70-80% question is solved. Okay, so now what do we have now? Let's revisit the question once quickly. We are given with an array that is telling us the number of pages that a particular that those particular books have. It also tells us the number of students that we have to assign it in between, and what it also tells us is it also tells us that at least one book can only be allocated to one person. That's also something that it's telling us. So you can't divide a book between two or more people. And fourth condition is like this is an obvious condition. Every student should get one book. That's a part of the previous condition only. Fourth condition is that you can only make continuous allocations. Okay, so if 10 books are arranged in a particular order that is given to you, you can only take the first 3 books, give it to one student, and then the remaining books you can just take out continuous order only. You can't pick one book from the start, one book from the middle. That is something that is not allowed in this question. Okay, and you will realize how it's actually making the question easier for us. Okay, so just have patience. Only today I'm requesting it from you guys, है ना? So let's move on. Let's assume. Okay, I tried to explain, but because we did not get it, let's assume that our answer is going to lie in this range: maximum of array to sum of all pages, or you can say sum of pages of all the books. It's going to lie in between this particular value. What is it that we want to analyze? We want to analyze the maximum number of pages that can be allocated to one student. है ना? This is what we are analyzing, and this number we want to minimize. We are analyzing this number, and this number we want to minimize. Okay, so we are working on calculating maximum number of pages that can be allocated to one student, and we want to minimize this number. Okay, so maximum number of pages that can be allocated to one student, right? This is what we are trying to understand here. So let's get back to our example. According to our example, if we assume that we are going to start with the maximum number of pages that one book has, so we are going to start with 40, and we are going to go to the sum of all the pages. So basically 10 plus 20 is 30, 30 plus 30 60, 40 100. Okay, 40 to 100. This is the range of our answer. What is the value that we want to understand? Maximum number of pages that can be allocated to one student, and what is the constraint? For now, I only want to highlight one thing. You have B students. You have B students. Okay. So now what you want to do is you want to work on this number, maximum number of pages that you can allocate to one particular student. Okay. So if you take the mid of these two numbers, 140 by 2, that is going to come as 70. If you take the mid of these two numbers, that's going to come as 70. What you are actually implying is, what you want to say to the question is that I will make a distribution such that 70 is the maximum number of pages that a student has to read. So I want to divide in such a way so that 70 is the maximum number of pages that falls on a particular student. Let's see, can we do that or not? What is the constraint? We have B students. Okay, so now if we get back to our array, 10, 20, 30, 40, and the constraint is this is the maximum number of pages that you want to have for one particular student. So if you start dividing, so how will it go? You can give this book to one student, it is still less than 70. You can give this book also to one student, it is still less than 70. So you can keep giving more books. You can give this book also to a student, so it is still less than 70, it is still 60. You can give this book also, but what will happen? As soon as you give this fourth book to this student, what is going to happen? It's going to get equal to 100, which violates the constraint, right? Which violates the constraint. So what are you going to do in this step? You are going to say, okay, this last book I cannot give to my first student, right? I cannot give it to my first student. So what I will do is, let's add a student, hypothetically. Okay, let's add a student, and then what I will do is, I will give my book to this particular student. Okay, so in this kind of distribution, what you have ensured is that the maximum number of books that you are giving to a particular student, the maximum number of pages, is less than or equal to 70, or you can say is less than 70, whatever, for the purpose of understanding. You can say less than 70 also, but it's actually less than equal to 70, right? So till this point it's fine, it's very good. But as soon as you try to give this book to the first student only, it violates the condition, so you go to another student, right? What does this tell you? This tells you that it is possible to make a distribution where you set the constraint that you are only going to give 70 pages maximum to a student. Because when you do this, you are getting a valid distribution. Why am I calling it a valid distribution? I am calling it a valid distribution because it got completed in 2 students. Are you getting my point? I'm calling it a valid distribution because it got completed in 2 students, right? So what you are going to do next is, you are going to come back to your question saying, okay, this is the value of mid that I calculated, and it's actually giving me the correct answer. It's actually giving me the correct answer. So what you will do is, you will store this on, you will store this 70 in your answer, saying that so far this looks good. So far this looks good, but what I also want to try is, I want to try what will happen if I change my upper bound to 69. Because if 70 is my answer, see, I am looking to minimize this value. I am looking to minimize this value, which says the maximum number of pages that can be allocated to one student. And I'm looking to minimize this value. That means if 70 is one of the answers, I do not need to consider from 71 to 100. So next thing that I'm going to analyze is, I'm going to analyze the window of numbers from 40 to 69 with this thing in consideration in the back of my mind, that 70, if everything goes wrong, at least 70 is there as my answer. Is this clear to you? And just assume that, we are starting from 40. This thing I'm asking you to assume at this point, is this thing clear, that once we get 70 as a valid number for maximum number of pages to be allocated to one student, you can store it as an answer, because this is one good value that you have gotten, and then you can start searching in the space 40 to 69. Is this clear to all of you? Let me relaunch the poll. Okay, and till the time you are filling the poll, let me take one doubt. Yeah, Shiban, go ahead.
हेलो सर.
हाँ
सर मुझे ये पूछना था कि सर ये जो मैक्सिमम ऑफ एरे सर जो ये 40 अलॉट कर रखा है हम लोगों ने, सर जैसे कि इधर साइड हमने 100 ले रखा है सम ऑफ ऑल पेजेस करेक्टर, तो अगर उधर साइड सर वैसे ही मिनिमम कर दें 0 या फिर मिनिमम ऑफ द एरे, तो उससे कुछ इम्प्लीमेंटेशन पे इफेक्ट तो पड़ेगा नहीं और उससे समझ में भी आ जाए सर, समझ में सही आएगा थोड़ा अगर वो कर देते हैं तो.
बिल्कुल
वही पूछना था सर. मतलब
बिल्कुल, तुम्हें समझा ना पर ये?
हाँ सर वो मैं समझ गया, लेकिन ये मैक्सिमम ऑफ एरे, मैक्सिमम एलिमेंट ऑफ एरे अगर कर दिया तो थोड़ा कंफ्यूजन हो रहा था.
हाँ, इसीलिए वो मेरा पर्पस ये है कि तुम्हें सब समझ में आ जाए, पर जो चीजें नहीं समझ में आएंगी फिर मैं धीरे धीरे नीचे उतरूंगा. So yeah, thanks for the suggestion, but glad that you understood. ठीक है? You are correct.
Okay.
Started from 0, it's not going to matter.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, Arshad, go ahead.
Hello.
हाँ भाई, go ahead.
Yeah, matlab in this like maximum pages which is 100, but the minimum students has to be 2, right? So matlab how can you allot all the pages to 1? So you can assume something else also, right?
matlab see how we are going to,
if one student gets all, matlab your assumption you're doing it, if one student gets all, so the minimum one every student has to minimum get one book, right?
I'll tell you why that will never be the case. If one student gets all, Arshad, very good question. Okay, I'm very happy. If one student gets all, what is the number of pages he will get?
100.
Will it ever happen? Because we are starting the
yeah, it won't happen. Yeah, that's what. No, okay. So like you're just taking a constraint. Okay, it has to be less than this. Okay.
Right. So that's not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Also, yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. I'm thinking about one thing. Just wait a second. चलो अर्षद फिर से अनम्यूट करो.
हाँ, yes.
चलो मिल गई एक बुक सबको. Sorry.
एक ही.
All the books, one student got it.
Yeah.
ठीक है. So you will say 100 is a valid answer.
100 is a valid answer.
Maybe चलो 70 कर लो इसको. You will say 70 is a valid answer.
If one student gets all the books.
So basically, are you understanding that your point is I'm starting with a bigger number.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's what.
I'm starting with a bigger number. So your fear is that maybe, let's say if we have 3 students,
Okay.
You will finish your allocation by considering 2 students only. That's your concern.
Hmm.
Valid
Yeah,
concern.
yeah. The basic, like the base case, what you say is the base case is two students, right?
अरे
If
सुनो
you,
तो सुनो. Your doubt is others. If you are understanding, listen to this. If you are getting confused, close your ears. Okay, don't get into this discussion. But why I'm explaining this is because it's a very crucial point that he has raised. Okay, and it's a very good doubt. That's the only reason I'm taking it, and this is the last doubt I'm taking. Because we will get back to discussion once again. So Arshad,
yeah. Adil,
ठीक है,
actually, my name
ठीक
is
है.
Adil.
This
Yeah.
question only. So
Yeah.
it's only for you. Okay, this question only, and have 3 students.
Okay.
Your concern is, sir, we had to distribute it between 3 students, and what you did was you distributed it between 2 students only. You just got away with it.
Yeah.
Am I ending the question there?
No, no, obviously not.
So I'm still going to push for a smaller value, no?
Yeah.
So 70 might have been taken as one of the answers, but
Yeah.
it's never going to make it till the end.
It is never going to make it till the end. Yeah, sure. That
Samjha?
is, yeah, yeah,
And what is the worst case, or you can say what is the minimum value we're considering? The case where one book is getting allocated to
everyone.
every
Yeah,
student.
like, yeah.
So although your concern is very good, very valid, but the point is we are not ending our discussion here. We are still looking for a better value. So
Yeah,
that
I got it.
thing, right? If you take a big enough value, then maybe one student will get all the books and your question will be done, theoretically speaking. But we
Yeah.
are not stopping there. That's the point.
Yeah, I
Okay.
got it.
So very good
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
But I'll have to like basically pause the series of questions here and let me come back to this one again. So the poll results say that 40% of you are unclear. So I will explain it once again. Okay, and now throw this 40 out of the window. Okay, only tell me one thing, that the minimum number of pages that one student can get is 0. Okay, although it's not possible, because what 0 means is एक student है who did not get any book. That's not possible, right? So at least one book every student will get. That's why I put the constraint as 40, the maximum number of pages that one particular book has, because at least one student is going to get that particular book with 40 pages. So we will start from 40 our discussion, because what are we looking for? We're looking for the maximum number of pages that can be allocated to one student, and this value we want to minimize. So at least 40 पे तो मेरा question हो गई. Okay, but anyways, forget it. Let's start from 0. Okay, you are saying that at least 0 pages one student will have to read. This is this I can compromise with, but this you need to understand, that the maximum number of pages that a student will have to read is the sum of all the pages, right? Because obviously if you read all the books and it's only 100 pages, you can't say that the maximum number of pages that a student will have to read is 101. You're not going to print pages of your own, right? So this constraint should be clear now. Minimum 0 kar do. Don't go to what I am saying. Make minimum 0, but maximum you can do is 100. This thing, is it clear? And please, I'll have to take multiple polls today because this is a crucial question and it has a lot of underlying steps. Hai na? So if I modify the constraint saying that, okay, don't worry about that 40 or whatever number, just tell me if this constraint is clear, that minimum 0 and maximum number of pages जो किसी को पढ़ने पड़ सकते हैं वर्स्ट केस में, सारी बुक्स उसी को दे दो. मिनिमम क्या हो गया, एक बंदे को हटा ही दो. Just ask him to play or whatever. Don't give him any book. And the worst case is make one person a complete nerd, सारी books उसी को दे दी, right? Our answer is going to lie in between this only. And now this value we are looking to minimize, right? So what we are doing is, again, let me start the consideration once again. अगर यहाँ से भी शुरू करो कोई दिक्कत नहीं, 50 आ जाएगी mid value, right? Your array is 10, 20, 30, 40. Okay, so what you will have to do is you will start considering, right? 50 is your maximum number of pages that one student will have to read. So आपने एक student लिया, उसको 10 book दी, fine, it's lesser than 50. This book also you gave, so it became 10 plus 20, 30, still lesser than 50. You gave this book also, but okay, wait. Now the student has to read 60 pages. You are not allowing that. in this particular example. So what you will do is you will move to, let's say, create a new student, okay, and you will give this book to this one, because 30 cannot be given to the S1, no? So you will give this book to S2 and he is fine with it because it's still lesser than 50. As soon as you give this book to this particular student, you are again violating your constraint. Your constraint is every student should get at max 50 pages. Usse zyada nahi dunga main, but you are giving 70 pages here. So what you will have to do is, to accommodate this constraint, you will have to create another student, and then you will say that, okay, don't give this book to the S2, give this book to S3 to read. And once you will come out of your consideration, you will realize कि यार ये constraint fulfill करने के लिए तो मेरे को 3 students लगेंगे. I will have to have 3 students if I want to fulfill the constraint that 50 should be the maximum number of pages any student should have to read. So what you will do is, at the end of whatever this is, okay, this consideration, you will realize that your constraint is getting violated because you made 3 students, you were only allowed to make 2 students. So this is not possible. With 50 as the maximum number of pages allowed per student, it is not possible to make an allocation. So what you will now do is, you will now say that, okay, if 50 is not allowed, obviously this whole window goes out of consideration. Now I can start from 51, which is the lower bound, and my upper bound is still 100. Okay, now if you do this calculation once again, 51 and 100, so let me just rewrite everything so that we don't have, any cluttering or anything. Now this is the updated constraint, and what is the mid that you will get out of it? And you will get to the validation part again. Okay, so what you will ask, your question is, okay, this is my array, let's start allocating books to the people. So what are you doing now? S1, you will give this book, maximum allowed is 75. You will give this book, you will give this book also, and then as soon, so basically it's 60, right? That's why I'm giving this book. As soon as you give this book, the sum becomes equal to 100, which is greater than the maximum number of pages allowed. So you will say, okay, till this point it's fine, but this book I cannot give to S1. Let's create a new student to be able to follow this constraint, right? This constraint. So what you will do is, you will, let's say, make a new student, and you will say that, okay, this last book I will give to S2, and then you will realize, okay, I'm done with the allocation, right? So outside of this particular consideration, what you will see is that I followed this constraint also, and I created only 2 students, right? So basically I did not exceed the number of student I was given with. So is it possible to make a distribution where each student has maximum 75 pages to read? Yes. So basically, because you're looking to minimize this number, once you have stored 75 in your answer, just to be on the safer side, कि अब कुछ भी नहीं हुआ, so 75 is anyways there. Even if I don't get any answer further, at least 75 is there with me. It is safe with me that this can be definitely done. So now, once I've gotten 75 as your answer, and understand, you're looking to minimize this number. What number? The maximum number of pages allowed per person, right? Maximum number of pages allowed per person. You're trying to minimize this constraint, this number. So once you have gotten 75 as your answer, 76 to 100 becomes useless. And now, because you're looking to, decrease the number further, you will want to start in this window. So basically you will start from 74 and obviously go till 51, because 50 के नीचे की values भी reject हो चुकी हैं, right? All the values from 0 to 50 have already been rejected. So now you want to consider something from 74 till 51, or you can say from 51 to 74, right? So now the constraint that you will have is, now the picture that you will have is 51 to 74. Your answer, one of the safe answer, is already present with you, and now you will look to minimize your answer further. Now you're looking to minimize your answer further because that's the value you're supposed to return. That's the value we are here for, right? Is this clear? relaunch poll. Is this clear? How we are shuffling these values? L is equal to mid plus 1, R is equal to mid minus 1, having stored the answer. L is equal to mid plus 1, R is equal to mid minus 1, right? If you are able to do an allocation with a particular value, that means that can be your answer. Okay, that can be your answer, but you will still try to minimize further. If you are unable to do so, एक value तो आपको मिली गई है ना as your answer. But if you are able to do so, you will get an even lower value for answer, and you want the minimum value for the answer, right? So you will keep decreasing or increasing your value. You will keep maintaining these constraints, and ultimately it will pinpoint to your answer only, right? So 75% of the people are clear, which is a very good ratio given the nature of this question. Okay, so I will explain again, but before I explain again, I'll take two doubts, because your doubts sometimes explain, like help the other people also. So this is for the other 25% who are still not clear. 75% people, please wait for 2-3 minutes. Okay, yeah, Abhishek, go ahead.
सर मुझे ये समझ में नहीं आया कि अगर आप कह रहे हैं कि 50 में मिड आप ले रहे हैं बाइनरी सर्च करके, 50 आप मिड वैल्यू ले रहे हैं, देन इट इज गोइंग टू 3 स्टूडेंट्स.
ये समझा ना आपको?
3 स्टूडेंट्स आप कह रहे हैं, ठीक है.
You got this part, right?
हाँ, अब मेरा ये कहना है, जब आप 75 ले रहे हैं, ठीक है, तब आप जो कैलकुलेशन कर रहे हैं वो आप वापस से 10 से स्टार्ट कर, करेक्ट?
Yes.
But still you are reaching till 40. Why not 50? Because जैसे कि हम 50 को कंसिडर करेंगे तो मेरा वहाँ स्टूडेंट इंक्रीज हो जाएगा. क्यों ऐसा कह रहे हैं कि 50 क्यों नहीं करने? क्योंकि आप 75 जब ले रहे हैं,
हाँ.
तो अगर मेरा 51 से 75 तक का नोड मेरे को, मतलब इस वैल्यू को मेरे को कंसिडर करना है, देन आई शुड स्टार्ट फ्रॉम 51 प्लस 60 प्लस 70 आई शुड गो, राइट?
नहीं. तो कहीं पे there is some gap. So let me explain to you. Because the number of students exceeded 2, I rejected 50 and all the values below it. ये समझा आपको?
हाँ, ठीक
है. So now where are we standing? We are saying that okay, our answer lies somewhere between 51 and 100. Okay. Now to increase the speed of the process, you are taking the middle number, right?
Okay.
Because if it gives you the answer, you will reject the numbers above it.
Okay.
क्योंकि आपको तो मिनिमम वैल्यू चाहिए ना. अगर whatever is happening inside my logic, forget it for 1 second. If 75 gives you the answer, just assume you can reject 76 to 100 safely, because now we are looking to minimize. So we will go in the left direction from 51 to 74. ये समझ में आ रहा है आपको?
सर एक क्वेश्चन तो यहाँ पे ये भी है मेरा कि हम जब आप ये कह रहे हैं कि जो मैक्सिमम नंबर ऑफ पेजेस किसी बच्चे को पढ़ना पड़ेगा, मैक्सिमम बट द मिनिमम पेज जिसको पढ़ना पड़ेगा वो है 100.
मैक्सिमम मिनिमम को छोड़ो. सी at this point what we are considering is the maximum number of pages that one student will have can read. Okay, the way we are iterating, ये number अपने आप minimize हो जाएगा. But what we are doing is 51, 100, this range that we are selecting, we are just setting the range for the value. What value? Maximum number of pages that one student will have to may read. Maximum allowed number of pages.
ट्रैवर्स करके वापस से 100 पे ही पहुंचने वाला.
नहीं, बिल्कुल
मतलब
नहीं.
आप ट्रैवर्स करके आप ये फाइंड करना चाहते हैं कि मैक्सिमम मिनिमम पेजेस जो है
yes.
किसी स्टूडेंट को मिलेगा. तो मैक्सिमम मिनिमम एज पर पुराना थ्योरी जो आपने बताया, जैसे 40 किसी को पढ़ना पड़ेगा मिनिमम, तो उसी तरह यहाँ पे तो अगर मेरे पास 0 to 100 है तो मेरे को तो 100 पेजेस पढ़ना है.
0 to 100 कहाँ है? अभी 51 to 100 हो गया ना. आपने you safely rejected 0 to 50 values, no?
सर देखिए, आपने स्टार्ट किया 40 से 100, ठीक है, या तो आप 0 से 100 लीजिए या
40 से 100 नहीं. मैं बोल रहा हूँ because people were having doubt in it, I am saying forget it.
Okay,
forget
sir.
it.
कहाँ से स्टार्ट किए? 0
Let's
से
start from 0 only. So
ओके सर,
From where we began
आप
our
0 से
discussion, 0
100
to 100.
स्टार्ट किए, तो किसी एक बंदे को मिनिमम मैक्सिमम पेज में मिनिमम जो पढ़ना पड़ेगा वो 100 होगा। सर किसी एक को तो 100 पेज का बुक मिलेगा।
100 पेज का बुक ही नहीं है, 100 is the sum of all the pages, all the books.
सम ऑफ ऑल द बुक्स।
हाँ, यही तो बता रहा हूं मैं, 10, 20, 30, 40 का सम 100 है, राइट?
ओके सर,
So all I am saying is,
तो मेरे
when
पास टोटल जो पेजेस है वो 10, 20, 30, 40 है, जिसका आप 0 to 100 ले रहे हैं
100, because
कमीशन।
if I give all the books to one student,
हाँ, ओके,
theoretical
समझ
possibility
गया।
I am calculating. So now when
Okay,
mid is
sir.
75, what I am doing is I am giving, one by one, continuously I am giving the books to one student, and जैसे ही वो value 75 cross करी, as soon as the sum of the pages cross 75, I introduce the other student, and I said that
Okay, sir.
this book I will have to give to the other student, because my constraint is maximum number of pages that fall on a student should be lesser than 75.
ओके सर, गॉट
So you see that for 75 we are getting a valid answer, है ना?
यस सर।
So what I am
Yes, sir.
now doing is I am storing 75 as an answer, कि if nothing happens in future, at least 75 is a safe number. And now what we
75
need
could be the maximum.
could be our answer, right?
Yeah.
And now because we are minimizing this value, now we want to consider from 51 to 74, because see, we want to consider the minimum value out of all these possible values. We have
Yes.
gotten 75, so we will definitely not consider 76 to 100, no, because अगर 75 के लिए solve हो गया, so it will definitely get solved from 76 to 100, but we will not take it because we are looking for the minimum such value,
Okay.
है ना?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I can't take the other dot because this one took a lot of time. So what I am saying is, from कहाँ गया? So 75 is one of the answers. So now my updated constraint is 51 and 74. If I calculate the mid once again, क्या हो जाएगा भाई? 75 plus 50, 125 by 262. If I calculate the mid once again and I go into my consideration again, कि मैं कहूँ कि okay, 62 is the new value. Let's see if it's possible to allocate the books with the constraint that maximum number of pages per student is what? 62. So now we are checking, is it possible to make a distribution like this? Let's see. Okay, so what do we have? Again, we have those books only, right? We are still solving the same question. So okay, एक student लिया where we have 10. Okay, 10 is lesser than 62, and answer is what? Answer is storing the value 75. Okay, so we gave him one book to read, no issues. 10 is lesser than 62. We gave him other book to read, still 30 is less than 62. We gave him one more book to read, still it's fine because 60 is less than 62. As soon as we give him the fourth book, it's going to give a problem that till this point it was okay, but if you give the fourth book, you are going to violate this constraint. So what we will do is we will introduce the second student, saying that okay, this student will take the book, you can say with 40 pages, and now we are going to move ahead because we are finished with the allocation. Now once we are done with the allocation, what we see here, our allocation got successfully completed and the number of students that we had to create was still 2. So basically the number of students that we had to create did not exceed 2. So we are good. Now that we are good, the value of answer will get updated from 75 to 62. So do you see how many numbers we skipped in between? This process that we are doing, allocating and checking, allocating and checking, allocating and checking, we're checking for all the books. So this is an expensive step. This is the O of n, linear step. We have to go through all the books, allocate it, see how many students are getting created, all this stuff. We skipped this for all the numbers from 74 to 63 because we directly jumped to 62. So do you see how this optimization is happening? Because 62 is giving you a valid answer, your answer will get updated to 62, and all the numbers from 63 to 74 you do not need to consider because you are looking to minimize this value, and 62 is a is a lower number, right? So now what you will consider is the numbers from 51 to 61, not even 62, because 62 to आपने store, sorry, 62, this you have stored as one of your answers, no? So now what you need to consider is from 51 to 61. So now the updated picture is 51 till 61 with your answer as 62. So if everything goes wrong, at least we know that 62 gave us the correct answer. Okay, so we will continue this process, we will keep continuing this process, and as you can very well see from this picture, we started from 0 to 100 and now we have shrunken it to a range of 11 numbers, 51 to 61. We will break it down further and we will have 5 numbers, 2 numbers, and finally we will have 1 number which will act as our answer. Are you getting a picture of what's happening? I'm relaunching the poll. Yeah, Akshay, just a second. Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, I just want to know, just tell me if I'm right or wrong. Like, sir, अगर in same case, अगर 3 students होते, तो we would be considering 0 to 49, not this 50 to 100. If 3 students were there.
Yes.
Is okay, sir. Yes, I got
Because
the point.
You, what will you say? You will say, okay, अरे यार ये तो 3 students चाहिए इसको, but you will see 3 students allowed है मेरे को, so you will go ahead with that.
अब ये आंसर इसमें 60 L and R 60 होने तक हम लोग we will do this.
आपको पता है 60 आंसर है, इसलिए आप ऐसा बोल रहे हो. अभी अपन ब्लाइंड है.
Yes, yes, I got it.
हमारे लिए तो 62 आंसर है भाई.
हाँ, जैसे कि अभी 3 स्टूडेंट्स होते तो अगर 49 to 50 में जो आंसर आना चाहिए वो लेते हो.
1 to 0 to
0, sorry 0 to 49.
Very yes, very good. Yes.
Okay, thank you sir, I got it.
है ना?
Okay.
Okay, yeah, Kambar, go ahead.
सर इस कोड करा दीजिए सर. सर कोड करा दीजिए इसका. बहुत
समझा नहीं, क्या बोल रहे हो?
मैं बोल रहा हूँ सर कोड करा दीजिए इसका. सर कोड,
हाँ, कोड पे जाना पड़ेगा अपन को. सही बोल रहे हो, करा देंगे, चिंता मत करो. हाँ भाई नौशाद, गो अहेड. दिस इज द लास्ट डाउट वी आर टेकिंग.
सर आई एम स्टिल कंफ्यूज. अब पता नहीं, जब से मिड वाला होने लगा ना मैं कंफ्यूज होते गया सर.
कहाँ तक समझा है? ये समझा है 50 को कैसे रिजेक्ट किया, 51 से
50 वगैरह को कैसे रिजेक्ट किया सर? पीपीटी में प्लीज ऊपर जाएंगे एक बार.
ये रहा.
हाँ, ये नहीं, इससे भी ऊपर सर. सबसे इनिशियल लेवल पे जब हायर वाला आप बता रहे थे ना, तो यहाँ पे थोड़ा समझ में आया था, उसके बाद से सर मुझे सब बाउंस जा रहा है, पता नहीं क्यों.
इसमें क्या दिक्कत है? इसमें दिक्कत है मतलब?
नहीं, इसमें दिक्कत नहीं है सर. इसमें एक दिक्कत है मुझे, जो थर्ड स्टूडेंट है ना अपना, वो एलोकेट क्यों कर रहे हैं सर हम, वो समझ में आ रहा है क्यों कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि कैलकुलेशन अपना 50 से अबव आ जा रहा है. ये चीज मैंने देख ली, लेकिन सर हमें तो ओनली फॉर 2 स्टूडेंट कराना है ना.
अभी when we will code it, we will handle this case, but to make you understand, I am saying अगर करना है तो क्या करेंगे? Third student will be required.
हाँ,
right?
तब तो चाहिए.
If you want to follow this constraint, there is only one way: make a third student. But later you will realize that okay, I could do this by making 3 students, but I am not allowed to make 3 students. So basically, this is an invalid allocation, right? So you will go above, and now you realize that okay, with the constraint that maximum number of pages allowed per student is 50, I cannot solve this question within the constraints.
और सर नीचे अपना 62 कैसे आंसर हो रहा है? वो मिड.
Is this clear? 51 to 100 is now our range.
हाँ, क्योंकि 50 ये चीज समझ में आ गई.
So now your range is 51 to 100. You will calculate mid 51 plus 100 by 2, 75, right? When you do 75, you get it done within 2 students. So you will say, okay, it's a valid case.
हाँ, तो यहाँ पे ही तो अपना आंसर आ जा रहा है, तो हम 51 to 62 क्यों जा रहे हैं फिर?
No, this is a valid case. If we go in that direction, 100 is also your answer. Are you getting me?
Yes, sir.
We want to minimize this value, right? The maximum, you are saying the maximum number of pages I am allowing in this iteration is 75, and you are getting an answer for that. But it is still possible, no, that there exists a number smaller than 75 that will also give you the correct allocation.
Okay.
Are you getting it?
हाँ.
We want to get the lowest such number, na, for which allocation is possible.
तो उस हिसाब से तो सर 51 to 62 के बीच में अपना 40 आ जाएगा आंसर. क्योंकि वो लोएस्ट है
51 to 62. What are you saying?
जो लास्ट में जो रेंज आया है सर अपना
51 to 62. 51 is greater than 40.
ओके 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 सर, समझ में आ गया, अभी समझ में आया थोड़ा,
है ना? Okay, poll results are not bad but could be better. 76% of you got it, but anyways, I'll just end poll. I will take one more iteration, then I will code for it, and then I will ask again. But still, I will request, even after my request, 40 people drop, but whatever 268 of you are remaining, please stay back. Okay, I still hope that you can understand this question. That's why I'm asking you again and again to stay back. So this is especially for those 25% people who are still in some form of confusion. I'll not abandon you. Don't worry. We will get through this question. Okay. So if I follow this constraint also, what we will get 51 plus 61, 50, 61, 112 by 2, 56. 56. As soon as you go ahead with 56, I'm going to speed it up a little bit. One answer that you have is 62. That is reserved. If you start allocating once again, after this we will code. Okay, so don't worry. What will you do? S1, 10, 20. As soon as you give him the third book, constraint violated, because then the sum will become 60, right? So you will have to introduce a S2. This book cannot be placed here. You will give it to S2, and if you give him the book with 40 pages, constraint is again violated because 70 is greater than 56. So you will say, okay, let's make a new student, give him this book. Once you have done this allocation, you will realize I don't have 3 students. That means this is not a valid allocation. That means I cannot go ahead with the constraint that 56 is the maximum number of pages I can allow. So if I allow 56 as the maximum number of pages, I will not have a valid allocation. So now, because 56 is not giving me the answer, obviously 51 will not be able to give it, and hence all these numbers in between will be rejected. So now my new constraint will be from 57 to 61. So when you will do it from 57 to 61, you know, this is your L, this is your R, like we have in binary search. What is the middle? 58 and 60. 108 ki 118? 1 second. 118, sorry, 118. So you will have 59 as the mid. You will again realize that for 59 also it's not possible. So the next constraint that you will have is going to be 60 and 61. If you calculate the mid here, your mid is going to come as 60. That's going to give you a perfect answer. For student 1, 10, 20, 30. For student 2, 40. So basically it's going to fall within your constraints. So ultimately your answer, which was storing 62, will now store the value 60. And what will happen according to our logic? According to our logic, we want to minimize the value, no? So we will still do R is equal to mid minus 1. So what will happen? This is L and R will become mid minus 1, that is 59. So you will exit now. You will exit now because you will only keep running this iterations till the time L is less than equal to R, right? You're only going to run it in those cases. So ultimately, when you get out of the loop, when you finish the condition, you will have 60 as your answer, and that is the correct answer. Because you made sure that you're following the constraints also, and you're still having the minimum number. If you're able to follow the constraints, you're storing that as one of your answer, and you're still trying to go and look for a minimum, for a lower number. If you're not able to follow the constraints, you're setting the L or the lower bound as 1 plus 1 to the right. So basically when you got 50 as your middle value, you saw that you cannot do it with 50 as the constraint. You rejected all the numbers from 0 to 50. Minimize the range, or you can say decrease the range to half. 0 to 100, 101 numbers. Now you have 51 to 100, that is 50 numbers. Then you broke it from 51 to 74, 24, 25 numbers. Then you broke it from 51 to 62, 10, 12 numbers. Then you broke it from 56 to 57 to 62, 5, 6 numbers. 59 was middle, so 60 to 61. How many numbers? 2 numbers. Then you had 60 as your mid. That was giving you a valid answer. That is when you got out of the question. So instead of having to consider all the varieties from 0 to 100, which would make your code order of sum of order of sum of pages into, so for all the number of pages you would have to do what? This O of n step, where you are allocating the books to a particular student, doing this, doing that. This got reduced to log of n into n, log of sum into n. This is what it got reduced to, because you are doing this processing. ये O of n क्या है? That thing that you are doing, right, where you're with a particular constraint in mind, you are allocating books to each student. That step is O of n, because you're traversing through all the books, right? ये book इसको दे दो, ये book इसको दे दो. That thing you are doing, right? So you are traversing through the whole array of books, whole array of pages. That is an O of n step. But because of the power of binary search, you only have to do it log of sometimes and not sometimes. Some number of times, sometimes nahi. This is the advantage that we are getting because of binary search. Is it clear? I will ask it once again once I am done with the code, but is it clear now? टाइम कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी छोड़ दो, ठीक है, टाइम कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी छोड़ दो, मुझे तो बस लॉजिक का बताओ, ठीक है. टाइम कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी we will come back to it, no worries, है ना. ये अनमोल, one doubt only we can take, go ahead.
सर बेसिकली जो मतलब कि इन शॉर्ट समरी निकल के आई, इसमें ये करना है, जैसे हमारा कांस्टेंट वायलेट हो रहा है तो हमें लेफ्ट इज इक्वल टू मिडिल माइनस 1 कर देना है, और अगर कांस्टेंट वायलेट नहीं हो रहा एल्स कंडीशन में राइट इज इक्वल टू मिडिल माइनस 1 कर देंगे, और लेफ्ट अगर कांस्टेंट वायलेट हो रहा है तो लेफ्ट इज इक्वल टू मिडिल प्लस 1 कर देंगे. सर यही करना है ना मैं बेसिकली इसमें क्वेश्चन में. हेलो,
हाँ
सर यही चीज करनी है ना, मैंने पूछना है.
यस
ओके सर, ओके.
अरे मैं बोल इसलिए नहीं रहा था क्योंकि इट वाज इकोइंग, सो मैं इशारों में बता रहा था, बट एनीवेज. ओके, so now 84% of you are clear. That's a very good number. 83%, but still not bad. Still stay back, the 13%, other 13%. Okay, please stay back. Let me remove, I actually coded this question before you guys came, right? So this is the code that I wrote. Anyways, okay, let's quickly take the inputs. Okay, I'm not going to waste my time there. Input format is the first line given is an integer n denoting the size of the array. Second line given is the integer array, and third line given is the integer b. So basically int n for the size, then you will take the array, and then basically int b for the number of students, right? So basically you can just mention here. So how you will take the input is system.in, and what we are going to do here is n is equal to sc.next int, right? Then you will make an array int, let's call it pages, okay, because we are representing pages, is equal to new int how many n integers, for loop for n times I is equal to 0, I is less than n, I plus plus, and then what we are going to do is pages of I is equal to sc.next int, ठीक है, and then we are going to take this int b is equal to sc.next int, क्योंकि उन्होंने बोला कि number of elements देंगे and then at the last it will give you the number of students. That's what it has mentioned, that's why I have taken the input like this. Okay, now there is a you can say secret that I did not tell you. In our example, I took an array which was sorted. It was just by chance. In this question, it's not really required. It doesn't really matter whether the array is sorted or not. Because see, what would you be doing? You would be taking one number from 0 to 100, 50, 75, 62. You will be taking these numbers, and ultimately what are you going to do? You're just going to go book by book, allocate it to people. If the number of pages exceeds the number that you are considering, you will start giving it to the other student. Does it really matter whether the array is sorted or not? Think about it. It doesn't matter. Okay. So in this question, it doesn't really matter whether the array is sorted or not. So now what we are going to do is, we will make an answer variable. We will make an L variable. We'll start it from 0 only. Don't worry. And we will make a R variable as, acha, sum lena padega. We will have to take the sum of these numbers. So let me take it like this. Sorry, sum is equal to 0. So I'm taking it in the same for loop as, where I'm taking the input. So R is equal to sum. So you have set the left and right bounds. So what you will do is, while L is less than equal to R, what you will do is, first of all, mid is equal to L plus R by 2. What we discussed in the logic, right, for the last 1 hour. Mid is equal to L plus R by 2. Let's just declare a mid. Okay, integer mid. Now all we need to do is, if so we were doing that check, no, that I want to check for mid, that if this particular number is the maximum number of pages allowed per student, will I get an answer or will I not get an answer, right? So we will make a separate function for it. Let me just say that this particular calculation is happening here. So is, so let's say, let me call that function is valid. So I'm making some distribution, right? I'm making a number. Let's say we took the number 50, right? And then I said that if 50 is the maximum number of pages allowed per student, will I be able to get a proper distribution or not, right? So basically that thing I am denoting with this is valid function. So if it's possible, I'm first of all going to store it as one of my answers. So basically I'll just take this answer variable I have taken, right? Answer variable I have taken. If this thing happens, answer is equal to mid. Also, I will open the chat. What is the other thing that I will do? Opening the chat. What is the other thing I will do? Ye to hai. This is there. Now I need to minimize it further. So I should change my upper bound to बहुत ही बढ़िया. All of you are right. Okay. क्या करना है मेरे को? R is equal to mid minus 1. ठीक है. So if by this particular mid as the constraint you are getting your answer, then do R is equal to mid minus 1. Else, and ultimately when you will get out of this, sorry, this is AccuJob portal. Is this clear to you? I will take a poll and then I will code the other part of the question, which actually tells us how we are validating, right? For a particular value of mid, how we are validating if it's possible or not, right? Array will be sorted only? No, array can be unsorted also. The only case I am getting confused is n is equal to b. N is equal to b. Then how is it calculated max instead of min of the array? Neil, what we want to give the question back is minimum value of maximum number of pages that a student is reading. So when n is equal to b, what is the maximum number of pages that a student is reading? जो भी सबसे मोटी book होगी, that book, right? Whichever is the thickest book. So that is the maximum number of pages a student is reading. So this value, maximum number of pages that a student is reading, is minimized at that value. Okay. You are not calculating, my friend, understand this carefully. You are not calculating the minimum number of pages a student is reading. No. You are calculating the minimum value for the maximum number of pages a student is reading, right? Okay, if array is not sorted, how will you apply binary search? You are not applying binary search on the array. You're applying binary search on the portion, on the value of maximum number of pages allowed. So Dinesh and others, हम लोग क्या करते? As normal human beings, we know that maximum number of pages that a student can read is from 0 to 100. So we would have run a for loop from 0 till 100, right? And for all these cases, we would have checked, right? For 0, 0, 0 as the maximum number, we would have checked, is it possible to make a distribution where 0 is the maximum number of allowed pages? No. Then you would have gone to 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. But because of binary search, instead of going iteratively from 0 to 100, you went from 0 to 100 to 50 to 100, 51 to 100, then 51 to 74, then 51 to 62, then 57 to 60, 57 to 61, then 60 to 61. So you decreased the number of steps from linear to log, right? Line 24. Line 24 is the line where I am checking. I will code a function for this, guys. Don't worry. This is the line where I am checking. Is it possible with mid value, that is this number mid is equal to L plus R by 2. Is it possible at this point to make a distribution of pages, or you can say books, such that I am allowing mid, or you can say the number 50 that we got, right? I am allowing 50 as the maximum number of pages that a student can read. So if that is giving me as true, that means with 50 as the constraint, I can go ahead. So I'll code this function, otherwise it will not be clear, right? I'll just code this function. So it's a true or false function, so it's a Boolean function. Boolean is valid. What all are we going to require? So हम लोग क्या कर रहे थे? We were allocating books to students, right? One by one. So obviously we will need that array. We will also need the what was it? Number of students, right? Let's also pass the size of the array. It's optional because you can anyways get the size of the array, but still let's pass. We will also have to pass the mid value. What is mid representing? Mid is representing the maximum number of pages that a student can read. So I am writing it max in short. Okay. So at this point, okay, in this case, this is the condition. So let's take a sum variable, right? Let's also take a students variable, right? Students. So I'm starting with the number of students as 1, and then we will keep incrementing as we go on. So for loop I'm running. For all the books, so basically it will go from I is equal to 0 to I less than n, right? And what are we going to do? Sum. Sum is equal to sum plus pages of I. Okay. If this sum becomes greater than max, what will you do? You will increment the number of students, right? What you will also do is you will allocate the sum back to, ये लाइन में समझाता हूं आपको. Sum is equal to pages of I, because see what you did was you came to the array and you just incremented it with pages of I, but at that increment what happened? Some value became greater than max. So when did it happen? When you added pages of I to sum. Sum is what? This sum that I was taking, right? This current sum. At each instant you realize I was taking this sum 10, okay, 20, okay, but if you add 30, 60 is going to become greater than 56. So this 56 is actually, you know, it is actually max of our example. This 56 is max of our example. And what is the other variable that we are checking? The sum. So what is the sum? This sum, 60, right? So that is what's happening. if this gets greater than the maximum that I am allowing, I need to take this book and take this book from the other student saying bahut ho gaya tumhara, give it to the other person. So basically I added 30 here, right? So that's what I am doing. So for the I am doing students plus plus, and now I am resetting the value of sum to pages of I, right? It was some other value, I am resetting it to pages of I because that is the point where the constraint got violated, right? And if at any point in the loop the number of students exceeds the number of students allowed, return false there only. And if you get out of the for loop successfully, this means the number of students didn't exceed b. So basically you can safely return true here, right? So basically if is valid of pages n b and mid is equal to true, answer will be mid. Otherwise, and r will be mid minus 1, s l is equal to mid plus 1. And then if I check this particular constraint, so this whole question that we discussed for 2 hours, or not 2 hours, 1.5 hours, actually got resolved in these many lines only. So ये तो AccuJob की कृपा है. The logic starts from this point. 20 to 32, 13 lines of code for 1.5 hour of discussion. What does it prove? In coding, this question is not difficult, but understanding why we are coding what we are coding is the main heart of the question here, right? So what did I do? Did I paste the correct values here? Input 1, Control C, Control V, run the code just to see if it's not throwing any syntax error. ये सब देखने के लिए static, अरे ठीक है यार, let's make it static, right? Console, again run it. System.out.println, answer might not have been initialized. So answer, let's initialize it to -1 just for acha. One more thing, NB, we have taken B. So if B is what? The number of students. If the number of students is greater than the number of books, or you can say this thing, not enough books for each student, right? So in this case, what you will do is return is system.out.println -1 and just return from this place only. Return. Okay. So this is something. One, 1, 3. Okay. And any other example? This example. ये example बहुत छोटा सा है. I'll explain it to you. एक second ना. What are we doing here? Just a second. L is equal to 0, R is equal to sum. Okay, L is less than equal to R, mid is equal to, what is the sum here? 5, 17, 111. So something above 100, like it's 22, 33, 133 by 2. So it's roughly what? 66, right? So mid is 66 is valid. What are we doing here? Students is equal to 1, this thing, sum plus is equal to pages of I, that's also correct. If sum is greater than max, this is also, we are passing mid, yeah, this is also correct. How come we are storing answer as 5 at any point of time? So it's 66, right? 66 once we get. So is it possible to make a distribution where 66 is the maximum number of allowed pages. So 517 you allocate, that's fine. But as soon as you will add 100 there, you will do a students plus plus, and okay. I'll have to explain it to you, but the problem that we see in this particular case is, see, the problem is you did students plus plus, okay? So what's happening is you're passing 66 to this particular function. You're passing 66 to this function, and what you have is 5 711. So 5 and 7 is lesser than 66. As soon as you give the book 100 to student 1, what is the problem that will happen? 100 is going to be greater than 66, right? So you will do students plus plus, and sum is equal to pages of I, and students is still not greater than B because 4 students are allowed. You will come again, but the problem now is you will have incremented the book, right? So do you realize the problem? You will have incremented the book. So what will happen is sum plus is equal to pages of I. So basically sum will be 100 plus whatever this number is, 11. But what will also happen is 111. What will also happen is, okay, you will say sum is greater than maximum, students plus plus, but sum is equal to pages of I. So do you see, even when you take the minimum value as 5, see how it's getting passed. See the problem with this particular constraint, right? When you're passing the value 5, what's happening is, see, where is the question? Okay, you pass the value 5, sum plus is equal to pages of I, right? Sum plus is equal to pages of I. So basically sum is now 5, which is fine. Sum is greater than max, no it's not, so we will come again. Sum plus is equal to pages of I, sum plus is equal to 17 plus 5. It's going to get violated, right? So what will happen then? Sum is greater than max, yes, students plus plus, students will become 2. Let me take it somewhere else, 5 17 111. Okay, so this is because of the constraint that I took. I removed 40 from there and then I put 0, right? Because you guys were not able to understand. Seems like we will have to put it back, but anyways, so 0 to 100. Okay, so this is the, not 100, 133 in the example that we have, right? This is the range where we are going. So what is the example? 5 17 111. 5 17 111. This is the number of pages of books, okay? And what you are passing 66. So let alone 66, even if I pass a number as small as 5, see what's going to happen. Even for 5, what's going to happen is, okay, I passed 5, right? My students is what? Student is equal to 1 only, and sum is equal to 0. So sum will become 5 in the first step, which is fine. In the second step, when I will come at 17, sum will become 5 plus 17. This is a problem because now at the step when sum is greater than max, max is what? 5. So this is your max actually, right? Max is given as 5. The problem that you encounter here is sum became greater than 5. So what you will do is students plus plus, right? And you will do a students plus plus here, and you will also do sum is equal to air I, or you can say pages I, right? Which is fine. So basically now sum became 17. So you will pass 100 now. Sum is greater than max, everything is greater than 5, right? Student plus plus, so the value of student became from 1 to, it became 2 already, now it became 3, and what do you have? Sum is equal to pages of I, that is 100, right? Then when you will come for the next time, sum is equal to 100, you will add 11 to it, sum is greater than maximum, student plus plus, it will get equal to 4, and sum is equal to pages of I, that is 11, whatever. But the point is, you are done with your for loop, and you will get out. You will get out here, right? And you will return true. But the point is, do you realize at each step when we are making the sum as pages of I, which is actually the correct thing to do, but the point is, even at this step, it is violating the condition that sum should be greater than max. So instead of Are you able to identify the problem? First tell me that, because if you give the correct range for L, that's going to solve the problem, but I'm not going to change the value of L. But are you able to understand the max is mid? How will it be 5? Gaurang, I am telling you, see, I showed you that even for 5 it is passing. So it's destroying the logic of our question, right? I took 5 randomly. You know, it's the smallest number of pages that any book has. So even for 5 it is passing. So I'm saying that our logic just became useless, right? I got 3 as an answer. How did you get 3 as an answer? सब समझ आ रहा है? No, whatever you have understood is still valid, right? उसकी चिंता मत करो. But the point is, this logic is flawed, right? If I write here, देखो, sum is greater than max, so you should move the book to the other person. But the point is, even then the sum will be greater than max. So what I'm saying is, if I allow 5, the number 5 as the maximum number of pages a person can read, I will get an invalid case every time. But what's happening is, sum is greater than max, but so I'm allowing this particular book to the other student, right? In the hope that, you know, maybe this student will follow this condition. But even now, this condition is not being followed. So student is getting incremented, but at each point, what's happening? Student is getting incremented, but at each point, what's happening? The sum is getting allocated, you know, you can say to the other number, or what's happening is you are reaching, you know, basically the point is, sum is always having an invalid value, and as soon as your student's value reached 4, you got out of the for loop because you had considered all the books. So the point is, this L value that we are taking, no, when we take it as 0, it's going to cause this problem, right? So we will have to allocate the minimum value for L correctly, or you can say the minimum value for this question correctly. But even then, do not worry about it. If you are not able to understand that, do not worry about it. What I want to do here is, see, understand this thing very carefully. I am here, that means sum became greater than max. What does it mean? That for a particular student that I was considering, he has more number of pages than we can afford, than we can allow, right? Then you are doing sum is equal to pages of I. Sum is equal to pages of I. I meaning you are taking one book, the ith book, and you are assigning it to the new student. That is what our logic was. That is what we were thinking when writing this step. But even now, when you have only taken one book, the ith book, and allotted it to one of the students, even then what's happening is, even this one book is having more number of pages than the maximum you are allowing, right? Even this one book is having more number of pages than the maximum you are allowing. That's why I said that the minimum value that we should consider is the maximum of all these numbers. Okay, but because that part is not clear to us, what we should see is very easy constraint. Okay, so what we will do is, tell me if you understand this. Okay, you can still stop me, but tell me if you understand this. If sum is greater than max, what does it mean? The particular student got more pages than we are allowing, or then छोटा करने के, he got more pages than we allow. ठीक है? So what do we need to do? We need to increment the student, saying इस student का हो गया, let's get another student and allocate this book to that student. Okay, but after this step, if sum is still greater than maximum, that means this particular book in itself has more pages. Are you getting this? When we are doing sum is equal to pages of I is the number of pages for ith book only, and that in itself is greater than the maximum you are allowing. एक ही book, उसके अकेले के pages are greater than the maximum you are allowing. Should we return, like, can we return a false right away? Because see, the point is, you are saying I will allow you maximum of 5 pages to read. Okay, what will this book with 100 pages do? Think about this. You are saying I will allow you a maximum of 5 pages per person. What will the book with 100 pages do? So if your sum is still greater than max, so basically, so now sum is equal to number of pages in ith book. If still sum is greater than the maximum, इस book की क्या गलती है? What is the mistake of this book? This book has more number of pages than the pages you are allowing to a student. That means you will not be able to allocate this book to any student. That means that even after this allocation, if sum is still greater than maximum, you need to return from this function, saying it's not possible that for this particular number I am doing the allocation. This particular book in itself has more pages than you are allowing. What is the mistake of this book, right? So at this step only, you have every right to return false. Is this thought clear to you? I am launching a poll also, and as you can see, I am not stopping the chat, so you can share your concern on chat also, but just for my consideration, like, answer the poll as well. Can't we just check if pages I is greater than max? गधा हूं मैं. Obviously, yeah. इतना कुछ करने क्यों है? So it's like, so Ridin, I'm not getting your name, but basically, so what this guy is saying, Ridin 1302-1996. So what he's saying is, agar at any point, if pages of I becomes greater than the maximum you are allowing, अबे वही, मैं गधा नहीं हूं, यही तो बोल रहा हूं मैं. Sum is greater than max, basically some pages of I जो है, so we can check. हाँ भाई, हाँ, if pages of I is greater than max, return false. हाँ, यही कर रहा हूं मैं भी यार, फालतू डरा दिया. Yes. Tausif and others, you are right. यार Anam, you are right. I also favor that way, but I am explaining this logic for people who are not able to figure out. अब तो बता दो, अब आपको समझा कि why it is important to have at least the maximum number of pages allowed per person as the highest number of book, because even if you allow 99 pages, the book with 100 pages is going to fail. अभी आपको समझा why keeping a right correct left bound is important, because you keep doing this, you will get the answer, but मैं कह रहा हूं extra cases consider ही क्यों करने हैं, right? So if I just go ahead with this example once again, so I am feeling good only because I tried to change the logic in the middle of the class for you guys. We got an error because of that, and for me personally, that just improved the understanding of the question, right? Because we were thinking about something, then we hit a speed breaker, right? But even then, so we went to the root cause where the problem is happening, and then we changed the code there, and see, we are getting the correct answer. Okay, there is one small problem with this question, but not in the logic, so I'm going to submit it. Not in the logic. Okay, there is some overflow kind of problem happening, so I hope 8 test cases pass. ठीक है ना? 2 out of 10 test cases failed. Don't worry about it. Okay, this is nothing. I'm telling you, blindly I'm changing every integer to long. Okay, that's the only thing I will do. So n and b are going to be your integers only. इसको कोई जरूरत नहीं खास. Array also let it remain integer. Sum change कर दो. change the sum. Why? Because see, very simple reason. You are allowing maximum 10 to the power 5 entries, and you are allowing per entry, you are allowing 10 to the power 5 as the maximum integer. So consider the case when you have 10 to the power 5 entries and each entry is 10 to the power 5, hypothetically. So you will have a case where 10 to the power 10 number will come. Integer can't store it. So basically for storing the sum, here you need a long. So long Lilia, sum is equal to this thing, b is equal to whatever, b this, answer is equal to this. Mid ko long le lo बेचारे को, because mid is dealing with the sum, right? Answer is equal to -1, l is equal to this, r is equal to sum. So r is equal to sum hai, to let's take all of this as long only. Okay, this pages is integer only, n is integer, b is integer, max I will take as long. Okay, then sum is equal to long again. सब कुछ long कर रहा हूँ मैं blindly. Okay, this is iterator only, इसको integer रहने दो. Sum is greater than this. Okay, let me just try to run it once to see कोई logical error ना आ गया हो, right? Otherwise, this step that I'm doing, that I just started doing 2 minutes ago, ignore it. Okay, I mean don't ignore it. You should be able to understand कि integer का long कर रहा हूँ बस. But the point is, logically we are done. 8 out of 10 test cases passed. The other 2 would also have passed, but it's just a typical case of overflow. So we're just taking long in place of int. पास हो जा. ठीक है, but still, even I congratulated myself one step previous only, even when the 2 test cases failed. So I was trying to do, I did the same thing before the class. ठीक है, मेरा 8 out of 10 test cases passed, और एकदम से you understand I have to take a class, और उसके पहले एकदम test case fail होने लगे, तो मेरी भी हालत टाइट हो गई थी. But the point is, it's only a matter of integer and long. Poll, I launched one poll. Let me launch the poll again. Overall, is this question clear to you now? Poll कहाँ गया? Okay. So this failure that we had in the second test case, 5 answer आ रहा था instead of 100. So that would make you realize, because if you take the possibility, if you take the constraint saying 100 is the maximum highest number of pages for a book, right? And you're saying I am only allowing you 99 pages. It will become impossible for you to allocate the book with 100 pages. That means you will have to start with at least 100, right? So that's the point right there. And I am very happy for the 80% of you who got it. Okay, and I'm happy for myself as well. And for the other 19%, let's try to give 15 more minutes. Okay. Now, those of you who are clear with the question, you can drop. Okay, now you can drop. Although 100 लोगों ने तो मेरी बात नहीं सुनी, they anyways dropped, है ना? But yeah, now I'm formally allowing you to drop if you are clear with the logic. Okay, so class is officially over, but I'll just stay back till like for more 15 minutes. Okay, just to take your doubts. So yeah, Baburam, go ahead.
सर मेरा डाउट ये है, अगर सॉर्टेड नहीं है एरे, तो सर जैसे आप एग्जांपल लिए थे 10, 20, 30, 40, तो उसमें अगर हम देते हैं 10, 40.
This array is not sorted. This array is not sorted. 5, 17, 111.
सर मैं ये बोल रहा था, अगर सॉर्टेड नहीं है तो आंसर सेम आएगा कि डिफरेंट आएगा?
सेम
सर वो वाला एग्जांपल एक बार लीजिए ना. नहीं 10, 20, 30.
I take my words back. Not same. Answer is going to depend on the order of the array. That's why if I sort this array, maybe some other answer can come. If I do not sort this array, some other answer can come. Let me explain to you with my example. 10, 20, 30, 40. Now let's say what you were given was 10, 40,
40
20, 30, 50, 50.
हाँ
What is your
हाँ,
answer?
इस केस में
50.
आंसर 50, इस
So
केस में
basically, that's
60.
why I said someone was saying, right? I think Kambar or Naushad, someone was saying, can we swap or do some operations with the array? No, because that will change the array. So that will change the question. That is a different input altogether, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
you're correct. It will, matlab, it's a
Give
different
different
input.
answer.
So different answer,
Yeah.
obviously, है ना? Question समझा पूरा?
जी सर.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
बहुत बढ़िया.
बाकी
Very
सब
good.
क्लियर है. Thank you.
Congratulations. Okay. हाँ, Praveen, go ahead.
Actually, I lost in between. That's my bad. Can I know why we took 5 as a max?
So, Are Praveen, I was trying to explain that, you remember earlier I was telling you that the minimum value where we should start consideration should be the book with maximum number of pages. In the beginning of the class, I tried to explain that. You remember that? ये वाला portion मैं बता रहा हूँ.
Yes.
You remember this, right? When I tried to start from 40.
Yes.
Where is that portion? Yeah, I mean, this one, 40 to 100. I tried to do it, but some people were uncomfortable. So I went from 0 to 100. Right? But the problem here is, see, if I come here saying, let's say, okay, this example we are considering, right? Where this is how my books look like, 5, 17, 111. So in this scenario, if I go there with the number even 99, let's go there with 99, okay? What will happen? You are allowing maximum number of pages as 99, okay? 99. So what will happen for this book?
This book will be not taken.
Kind of not taken. So you don't want that to happen for any book, no? So minimum number of, you can say, constraint, the minimum constraint that you can put is at 100 only. Because at least you will make sure that that book is being read. Okay. Our code was not able to identify that problem because, so you do this, okay? In this portion, I introduce this check, okay? I introduce this check saying if my sum is getting greater than max, still just return false, because this particular book in itself has more pages than the pages you are allowing, right? Apna Praveen, it's like saying your sum is equal to pages of I. You want to refresh it, right? Each time that the sum becomes greater than max, you want to refresh it. Okay. So you want to assign a new book to a new student. That's what our idea was when we were giving the book with 10 pages, 20 pages, 30 pages. When the book with 40 pages came, we allotted it to a different student because the sum was getting greater than our constraint. You remember that?
So here we are taking max is equal to 100 only.
We should set the max as 100. We should start considering from there. But the point is, because we have started considering from 0, it will ultimately keep on getting passed if we do not add this condition, right? So what you can do is do this exercise yourself. Only one thing. Do only one thing. Consider this test case. Consider this test case and run this particular function. Okay. You will realize that even for the cases that it should not pass, it will pass if we do not add this constraint. Okay. So do a dry run here. And I will also request, so tomorrow you will have binary search doubt section only, right? So one thing. So tomorrow I'll be taking the lecture from 8 to 10, okay? Because I have to have some work after that. So 8 to 10 our lecture. So doubt session will be from 10 to 11. Tomorrow we are going to start new topic unrelated from binary search, stacks and queues. So in the doubt section, I will again ask the instructor to take the same question. Okay. So you will get clear with it. And what was I going to say? If there is any question that is remaining, first point is we can let it remain. The second point is I can try to take it on the weekend because all these questions are doable only. If this question you understand, there is nothing in binary search that you will not be able to understand. हो सकता है solve ना कर पाओ एक बार में, but अब समझ में सब आएगा अगर ये समझ में आ गया तो. Okay. This thing, do a dry run. Try to do a dry run for this. Okay, Praveen? Yeah. Sorry, I can't do it here because others are also waiting for the doubt solving. Yeah, Bharat.
हेलो
हम्म
सर एक्चुअली मेरा डाउट इज वैलिड वाले में है।
हाँ बोलो बोलो.
मतलब हम लोग स्टूडेंट्स ग्रेटर देन बी क्यों कर रहे हैं? मतलब अगर हम लोग स्टूडेंट अगर लेस देन इक्वल टू बी हुआ तो फिर वैलिड है, और अगर
हाँ.
ग्रेटर देन बी हुआ तो फिर इनवैलिड है।
हाँ
पर अगर स्टूडेंट अगर 5 से नीचे मतलब कम हो गया सपोज एग्जांपल में, तो
हाँ
फिर
हाँ तो ना मैं रिटर्न ट्रू ही करूंगा भरत. व्हाई? बिकॉज आई वांट टू कीप ऑन कंसिडरिंग. देखो, think in this way, Bharat. What will happen if I return true? An answer will be stored, but the point is the search will still go on. R is equal to mid minus 1. The search will still go on, right? So what you are saying is, I understand your problem, and that is what Arshad asked in the beginning, right? Ki, what if you allocate all the books to one student and you still get away with it, right? So something similar you are asking. What if I allocate all the books to 2 students and 3 students are still remaining idle? You are saying that I am returning true in that case, right? I am returning true in that case because what I want is I have set a safe limit. Okay, for this particular number, my allocation is taking place, but I am still looking for a, you can say, lower number, no? So ultimately, when I will return my answer at this point, ultimately, what I'm going to consider is I'm going to consider the case where all my students are getting allocated properly. So this you can say this or you can say this problem that you are facing here, it's going to get taken care of in the later iterations. So in this case, your number of students can be will be less than or equal to b, right? And you will allow it. Did you get my point? Because we are not stopping the question there. हम लोग और बेटर नंबर के लिए सर्च करेंगे ना. आपका प्रॉब्लम क्या है सर? आपने 100 के लिए पास करने दिया. We allocated the books to 2 students only, but there were 5 students. What I am saying is I allowed it for 100, but in the next step I did this, no? So we are continuing our search. So ultimately we will reach there where all the 5 students will be taken care of. But the point is, Bharat, what I definitely don't want is I don't want this to happen. अगर false कर दूंगा तो I don't want this to happen कि 100 में तो पास कर दिया, now go for 150. No, because if it pass for 100, it will pass for 150 and we will be headed to a different direction only. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
पक्का?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
तो सर मतलब बी एलिमेंट तक होंगे ही ना, मतलब बी स्टूडेंट तक?
बी स्टूडेंट तक, हाँ, बी या बी से कम होंगे, but because we are keeping on iterating, ultimately we will settle our case there only. Okay. So Bharat, for you, otherwise you understood the question, no?
Yes, sir.
So for you, I am writing this. Try for this. Okay, 10, 20, 30, 40, but this time take 3 students. Okay. Why am I asking you to do so? Because आप mid calculate करोगे ना, जब आपका mid 70 आ जाएगा. So what you will realize is 10, 20, 30. This will be for student 1, and student 2 will have 40. So you have 3 students, but you got away with 2 only. यहाँ पे you will still return true because you want to consider a smaller count now, right? अगर आप false return कर देते तो ये बात 70 के भी आगे पहुंच जाती. L is equal to mid plus 1 हो जाता, right?
Yes.
That's the issue. Okay, so you can, I'm stopping here for 1 second. You can take a screenshot or whatever device you are on. Take this example, 10, 20, 30, 40, B is equal to 3 students, right? You will realize what I am saying. Do a dry run on that, है ना?
Okay, sir.
Thank you, Bharat. Yeah, Abhishek. Yeah, go ahead. हाँ. एक सेकंड ना, एक सेकंड, मैं प्रांशु तक ही डाउट ले पाऊंगा क्योंकि फिर मेरे को भी घर जाना है ना। बाकी अभिषेक क्या, गो अहेड।
सर उसमें ये
यार आपकी आवाज कट रही है यार। 5 का कुछ बोल रहे हो आप, क्या 5 क्या?
हेलो, अभी आवाज क्लियर आ रही?
बेटर है, बट हाँ ऐसी आती रहे तो अच्छा है, बोलो।
ठीक। जो सर आपने लास्ट केस दिया था ना जिसमें 100 पेजेस है।
हाँ हाँ, सॉरी ये वाला, हाँ।
वही वाला। तो अब इसमें ये कहना है कि आप 4 स्टूडेंट्स हैं, राइट सर? लेकिन जो लॉजिक हम पे बात कर रहे थे, उस लॉजिक में हमें जो आंसर आएगा, राइट सर, उस आंसर में व्हाट इट विल बी द मैक्सिमम नंबर ऑफ मैक्सिमम वैल्यू।
बोलो बोलो, नहीं बोलो।
मैक्सिमम वैल्यू होगा that will make the sorting to be equal to answer or should be less than equal to or less than answer, right sir? यहाँ पे मेरा जो वैल्यू आएगा, आंसर वैल्यू, वो होगा 100, ठीक है? फिर लॉजिक के हिसाब से जिस जो स्टूडेंट प्लस प्लस हम कर रहे हैं उसमें 5 + 17 पहला होगा, दूसरा स्टूडेंट को 100 जाएगा, तीसरा स्टूडेंट को 11 जाएगा, 3 स्टूडेंट में जिसको ये अलॉट होगा, लेकिन 4th स्टूडेंट तो मेरा अंदर 0 रह जाएगा, उसको तो कुछ नहीं मिलेगा बेस्ड ऑन द कोड, जो इस लॉजिक हम लोग बात कर रहे थे।
ओके, एक सेकंड। 4 is the 4 number of books. You are passing 100 as the this thing. Okay. Okay. So good, Abhishek. This even I didn't realize. So this is the special case where one book is, you can say one book is so heavy that all the other books are kind of getting neglected in its shadow. So in this case, that will never happen. What I just explained to this one.
वो मेरे को क्लियर नहीं हुई कैसे वो 4 स्टूडेंट में डिवाइड हो जाएगा, कि मेरे को वही लग रहा है 3 स्टूडेंट्स में ही डिवाइड।
Agreed. So this is a special case, right, where one book is, you can say, very much bigger than the other books. So how we will kind of, get away with this particular approach is that we know minimum 100 we will have to keep anyways, right? So when we will try to ensure that everyone is reading this particular book, that's when we will, we can basically close this particular case. So if you realize, Abhishek, think about it. Even I am also thinking at this moment only, because I didn't realize it before you asked it. Okay, so good observation first of all. But what I'm trying to convey to you is, because you are solving this question, that means a solution is possible. Okay, because you are solving this question, that means a solution is possible. Now your job is to find out the minimum value for this particular thing. What is that particular thing? The maximum constraint that you can put, that for one student I only want to allow these many number of pages. Okay, so that is getting solved with 100. Why? Because of this line. So you are right that when you will pass 100, during observation, what will happen? First student will take up 5 and 17, second student will take up this thing, and third student will take up 100. So we will never get to the case where we see a fair distribution of these books happening for 4 people. But if you carefully try to understand, so this is something you will have to go beyond code. If you try to understand, because you're solving till this particular point, or because basically this is not the case, right? कहाँ गया? ये चीज नहीं है. That means solution exists. Okay.
सॉल्यूशन एग्जिस्ट करता है, लाइक एक जन को 5 देंगे, एक जन को 17 देंगे, एक जन को 100 देंगे, एक जन को 11 देंगे. दैट इज द सिनेरियो. बट जो लॉजिक की हम बात कर रहे थे वहां पे तो ये पॉज हो जा रहा है.
That is not reaching there. So how we are returning 100 is because of this constraint only. Okay. So that is something even I am observing now, right?
So what do you want to mention actually in line number 49?
This thing?
Yeah.
You are asking?
Yeah, yes, sir.
So what I am trying to represent at this particular point is, do you realize what this step means?
Yeah, you are adding adding the number of pages.
I am adding the number of pages here. Then when the number of pages becomes greater than the number that I am allowing for one student,
Yeah, that is 100.
What do I want to do? I first of all increase the number of students, and then the message that I convey here is sum is equal to pages of I. That means that for the next student that I have created, this is the book that he is going to read. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I
now
got
what I am checking here is
got the meaning of both the sum. Okay. In the line number 49, you are just trying to make the thing clear that the number of the answer that you are talking about, the maximum number, that maximum number of pages जो आपको पढ़ना है, उसके लिए जो sum होना चाहिए, वो should not go beyond the max value.
Exactly. So basically, at this point, sum only contains the number of pages in ith book, na? So what you can also write, Abhishek, what you can also write here is pages of I.
That's fine, sir. तो मेरा बेसिकली ये कहना है कि यहाँ तक तो हम यही चेक कर रहे हैं कि वो 100 से कम है, that is 5 plus 17 is less than 100, so it will go in student one will study page number 5 and total page 17, so it will be total together 70 plus 5.
Whatever 22.
तो वहां पे भी तो हम थर्ड स्टूडेंट तक ही जा सकते हैं, फोर्थ स्टूडेंट तो नहीं होगा।
वही तो मैं बोल रहा हूँ, मैं वही तो बोला, वो सही बोल रहे हो तुम। बट इन दिस केस व्हाई वी आर रिटर्निंग 100 इज बिकॉज सी दिक्कत कहाँ आती अभिषेक, दिक्कत उस केस में आती जब अपने को लाइक व्हेन वी वुड हैव हैड सम नंबर ग्रेटर देन 100 एज द आंसर, सो वी आर रिटर्निंग अ ट्रू फॉर 100, यू नो, वी आर नॉट from a code perspective, we are not checking the case where these books are getting distributed correctly to 4 people. Okay? But how we are still getting the correct answer is because of the fact that we have crossed this line. है ना? We have crossed, कहाँ गया? We have crossed this line. It means that the distribution is possible. ठीक है? मैं आपको एक एक्सट्रीम केस बताता हूँ, आपको बिल्कुल क्लियर हो जाना चाहिए। 4 बुक्स हैं।
समझ गया सर कि आप एक बेसिक केस ले रहे हैं जिसके बेस पे क्वेश्चन सेट है, तो दैट्स व्हाई इट्स गेटिंग पास, बट बेस्ड ऑन द कांस्टेंट्स दैट यू हैव डिफाइंड, दैट 4 कांस्टेंट्स, कि अगर किसी को भी 0 पेज नहीं जाना चाहिए तो यहाँ पे एक बंदे को 0 पेज जा रहा है,
ऐसा लग रहा है कि जा रहा है, बट मैं वही बोल रहा हूँ ना, ये एग्जांपल सुनो। 4 बुक्स हैं, one book has 1 page, other book has 1 page, third book has 1 page, fourth book has 100 pages. ठीक है?
Okay.
Right. So in this case, you will not be able to do it with the help of code, but what you will realize is 100 is going to be the answer, right? So in the case when one book is having significantly higher number of pages than the other books, that is going to become the clear winner. So in that case, what you basically need to do is, as you can see, अगर ये line pass हो गई है, so we will see basically this line has passed. That means a solution exists. First point. Second point is, no matter what's happening inside it, what we realize in the end is we are getting the correct answer only, right? And why are we getting the correct answer? Because we are considering 3 students. आप क्या बोल रहे हो? हम लोग तो 3 स्टूडेंट्स ही कंसीडर कर पा रहे हैं इन टर्म्स ऑफ कोड, बट वी नो दैट अ डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन इज पॉसिबल ना। 3 स्टूडेंट्स कंसीडर करके भी आपका मैक्सिमम नंबर 100 आया। आप ये सोचो अभिषेक, इवन आफ्टर कंसीडरिंग 3 स्टूडेंट्स,
सबसे पहला एलिमेंट को मैं 100 ले लूं, ठीक है, सेम क्वेश्चन, खाली अरेंजमेंट
अलग 2 स्टूडेंट्स में हो जाएगा एक तरीके से,
तो वहां तो 4 स्टूडेंट हो जाएगा ना, पर वहां तो 2 स्टूडेंट हो जाएगा।
हाँ
ठीक है, तो वो चीज तो फिर वहां पे,
अरे बट इस चीज में कहाँ दिक्कत है ये समझने में कि देखो 2 स्टूडेंट्स में हो गया, ये आपको लग रहा है अभी, है ना? ऐसा लग रहा है देखने में कि 2 स्टूडेंट्स खाली बैठे हैं, है ना?
देयर शुड बी एल्स कंडीशन, राइट?
अरे सुनो तो 2 स्टूडेंट्स, अभी इसको अपन और नहीं ले पाएंगे अभिषेक, क्योंकि भाई टाइम ऑलरेडी हो गया और 3 बच्चे और वेट कर रहे हैं।
अच्छा सर,
तो बस
दूसरा ये चीज पूछना था मेरे को, लाइक समझ गया मैं आप जो कह रहे हैं, ठीक है। दूसरा मेरे को ये क्वेश्चन करना था कि ये क्वेश्चन अगर बेसिकली बाइनरी सर्च पे दिया जाए तो हम ये फिट कर सकते हैं, नहीं तो अदर अप्रोच भी हो सकता है इसका।
अदर अप्रोच बहुत ही गंदा है। वो ये है कि आप क्या कर रहे हो, बाइनरी सर्च का फायदा इधर पे हो रहा है, ठीक है। Otherwise, what you will do is you can run this is valid functions for I is equal to minimum constraint to sum. तो वो आपका O of sum हो जाएगा। यहाँ पे क्या है, O of log of sum, समझ रहे हो आप? So that approach, this particular approach that has turned the code into logarithmic number of times, ये आपका is valid functions log of some number of times कॉल हो रहा है, अदरवाइज सम नंबर ऑफ टाइम्स कॉल होगा, ठीक है,
ठीक
है ना? ओके, या शुभ, गो अहेड।
Am I audible, sir?
हाँ
I'm
बोलो।
Pranshu.
अच्छा प्रांशु हो गए कि हाँ शुभ आते तुम पे, हाँ बोलो।
सर एक ऑब्जर्वेशन था, शेयर करना था, मतलब ऐसे ऐसे कोई डाउट
मैं
तो नहीं
रिकॉर्डिंग
है?
स्टॉप कर दूं वरना घबरा जाएंगे बच्चे जो लोग रिकॉर्डिंग